What's cracking, everybody? Welcome to GameFace, episode 397 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of Sifted and the host of GameFace. Of course, I also have a co-host, and that awesome person is Matthew Keil. What's up, Matt?
Oh, just going over Robert Downey Jr.'s salary.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Comic-Con. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that, honestly. I was like, I know a lot of it isn't game-related, but like, I want to hear what Matt has to say about what happened at Comic-Con with the MCU. I definitely can't wait to hear your take on it. We're going to talk about Comic-Con for sure. We're back after just 6 days here on GameFace. We did a show on Wednesday of last week, and now we're back in 6 days. And I'll just say this, we don't have as many game reviews as we had in last week's show, but we had 4 in last week's show. But honestly, that one day makes a big difference for me, because that's the day that I will play games. So really, we have 2 reviews in today's show instead of 4 like we had last week, which I think that's okay. We have a big housekeeping today, lots of smaller stories to talk about. So we're going to have a great show as usual, and we are back here. Also, it was my wife's birthday this week, and she likes to take like a good 3-day slot out of my time to celebrate, which I'm all about. I'm totally cool with that. But it was a little bit of a being behind the 8 ball for me this week, trying to get stuff ready for GameFace. But I think we have a great show for you guys, and as I said, we're back after just a 6-day hiatus. What have you been up to this week, Matt?
Oh, I mean, I did watch a fair amount of Comic-Con phone streams, you know, because...
Were you watching IGN's coverage?
No, I was watching discussing film and some just random people who were, you know, broadcasting out of there who weren't supposed to be, because the organizers of Comic-Con are still afraid to stream anything because they think nobody will show up to the actual convention.
It really is crazy. After all this time.
They're old, weird people.
Yeah.
We had that argument with them. We had that argument with them at G4 because we wanted to show panels on the live cover,
I remember it.
And like they would not do it.
It's insane. That's not what people go there for. I mean, they enjoy that part of it, but they go there to hang around with other people.
Look,
like
dude,
them.
It's like, and like we were even suggesting like a BlizzCon thing where you pay to watch the stream, you know, like that.
Yeah.
It's like
you can make revenue off of it.
And it's like the people who wait overnight to go into Hall H to be in the same room with their favorite superhero actor, they're still gonna do that.
Yeah,
I promise. Like.
They're not there to just learn the information.
That's not someone who just wants to see the news on the stream.
Yeah.
That is someone who thinks that being in Hall H is something special.
Yeah. Is IGN still the only partner that streams from Comic-Con?
I mean, it's hard to tell anymore because everybody's streaming shit off their phone now.
Right,
I think IGN's the only official one that I recall.
With the big stage and the whole shebang.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're the only ones there doing the partner thing.
Who else would do it at this point?
No, yeah.
There's nobody left.
No. And that's all, you know, that's all Corrado, of course.
Yeah.
Which he's been doing live coverage of Comic-Con for
20 years now.
Longer than anybody.
Yeah, a lot of us have taken breaks from doing the whole live E3, live Comic-Con, live
our first live Comic-Con was 2006. I remember that because that was the first year I went back since 1996. And I was a little shocked that it had basically become E3.
Yeah. Although, and we're gonna talk about Comic-Con here in a little bit, and we'll take the games angle to it. Not as big a thing as it was 10 years ago. Games there. It feels like they've kind of gone back to the way it used to be, where there'd just be like a couple sprinkles of game-related stuff in there, but most of it's still related to cultural stuff around games.
Yeah, it's still just comic book related stuff, and sci-fi nerdy things, more or less. Like games were never super big there.
For a spell, though, they had like a little mini E3 going on.
I mean, there's a lot of reusing the same booths stuff, and Nintendo would bring the giant Pikachu and things like that. It was striking how much that little middle of the hall suddenly looked like
it took off for a while.
I mean, to the point that in 2006, I had to ask people where the comic books were.
Right. And they had shoved them all
the way down to the far end, on the right side, where the lights are off. You know?
What I loved about it, though, is that as you got close to that area, you could smell the comics.
Oh, yeah.
I love that smell.
The must.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like a cross between old paper and musty and maybe a little bit of like mold thrown in there for good measure. I love that smell. It reminds me of Comic-Con. So anyway, we will discuss Comic-Con, mostly in the context of games, but also I want to get Matt's take on some of the stuff that happened there, and I'm sure you guys do too. And Luna wants his take as well, I would guess. A couple things before we get going. The housekeeping before the housekeeping. We are taking questions for Pactor Factor right frickin' now. Right this second, we are taking questions for Pactor Factor, and we need your questions right frickin' now. You can go to our YouTube channel and click the community tab. You can leave a question there if you're not one of our patrons or not one of our subscribers. There's a post up on our Patreon right now. There's a post up at SIFTD.net. Please go and ask questions. We're shooting the show first thing tomorrow, and I can just tell you, I looked before I left. We do not have anywhere near enough questions to shoot a round of Pactor Factor. In the posts, I give you guys. I put the ball on the tee for you guys. I literally give you like 15 different topics to choose from, from me. You don't even have to think. Just go look at what I wrote in there, and you can be like, oh yeah, I do want to know about that, and ask a question. The problem is I can't ask the questions. You guys have to. Without you guys, Pactor Factor doesn't happen. So again, please go ask questions for Pactor Factor right now. We're shooting it tomorrow, and there's plenty of things to discuss. We haven't shot a round of episodes for almost like 2 months right now. Because of the way logistics and stuff worked out and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we are ready for a new round. Make sure you ask questions. And then one final thing, we're getting to the end of July here. And I mentioned a few weeks ago that August 1st, we're flipping the switch on our Patreon to where we're going to make it so once you sign up, you have to pay right away instead of getting a month of free content. And then in a lot of cases, bailing before you have to pay. That's a thing of the past on our Patreon. Beginning on August 1st. So that switch is going to flip here in a couple days. Just want to remind you, and again, don't freak out. If you are an existing patron or you are an existing subscriber at SIFTD.net, nothing is going to change. You wouldn't even know it happened if I didn't mention it. But look, I'm an honest guy. I'm all about full disclosure. I want to be transparent. I want you guys to know what's going on, even if it doesn't affect you. And again, it does not affect you at all. It's only for new patrons and new signups. It will affect them. Now when they decide to sign up, they're going to have to pay right away, and then it will turn over a month later for them. In the past, we were letting people literally get our free content for a month, and then they were bailing the day before. They just happened to us with E3, which was the final nail in the coffin. I was like, that's it. Like, we literally had like 15 people sign up for our Patreon, watch content all month, and then on the last day of the month, drop their pledge. And they got all our E3 content for free. Whoa. I know how Luna feels about it. She just freaked out. So anyway, again, if you're a current patron or a current subscriber, you won't even know anything happened. But I like to be transparent. I want to let you guys know what's going on. And I also want to keep you guys in the loop so you know what's happening with how we're handling our finances and things like that. I think that's one of the cool things about being on Patreon and having subscribers is that connection between the creator and the audience. And so I want to make sure that we maintain that as much as we can. So anyway, just a couple notes. Go ask questions for Pactor Factor right now, if you got a minute, if you can. And also just keep an eye out. We're flipping a switch on our Patreon here in a couple days. And with that, it's time to get on with our housekeeping. And as I said, we do have a lot today, which is good because we don't have as many games. So it kind of works out. But it was kind of a busy news week. And Matt, we are going to kick things off with Comic-Con 2024. And look, I don't want to bury the lead here. Before we start talking about the game-related stuff, I want to hear your take on them bringing back Iron Man to play Doctor Doom. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I think it's a stunt.
Do you think it's not really going to happen?
I think it's going to happen, but he's not Doctor Doom.
Oh,
he's some variant of Doctor Doom.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There have been more than one comic book story where Doom switched brains with Tony, or Tony became the Doctor Doom equivalent in some universe or whatever. And we're moving into the Secret Wars and the end of the multiverse thing, so you're going to be dealing with multiple versions of characters. It sounds to me like they're doing some sort of permutation of the infamous Iron Man Emperor Doom thing.
There's been a lot of characters who have been Doom for a spell. Yeah.
And my guess is that this is some version of Tony who came from a universe where they beat Thanos with magic more than science, and his PTSD, as it does, sort of led him into obsessing over that, and so he kind of became a techno mage like Doom is, and that's sort of his identity now. How he would end up with exactly the word. But the other thing is, like, it could be all a red herring, and this might just be a way for them to explain why he's going to be seen on set during the making of these movies. But one way or the other, I do not believe he is the actual Doctor Doom. I believe an actual Doctor Doom will show up because, for one thing, if you're willing to reuse actors for these roles, and you don't pick Mads Mikkelsen to be Doctor Doom, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And the main thing is like, I have a lot of respect for Kevin Feige and a lot of the casting choices they made over the years, and a lot of times they'll cast somebody and I'll be like, but then as soon as I think about it, I can picture it.
Yeah.
I cannot picture Robert Downey Jr.'s voice being Doctor Doom.
I can't either.
There's something fishy here.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Matt. I hope there is something fishy here.
Yeah, it is.
Because this seems crazy to me and desperate.
It is a very strange move. But I mean, now that we're hearing what they're paying everybody, like they're paying the Russo brothers $80 million to come back.
Whoa.
And direct this.
I mean, it's worth it, right?
And they're doing it. I mean, well, hopefully. And they're doing it through their production company. Which has Marvel Studios has never outsourced something like that before. So that's very interesting.
Well, I think they have to kind of admit that they're off in the wrong direction right now.
Well, I'll say one of the things that struck me in contrast between them and the distinguished competition, as they say, is James Gunn flat out said, we got a bunch of the best people I could find in one room, and we planned out the first whole major story arc of the DC movies. We know exactly where we're going. And I'm like, the fact that you guys didn't, I mean, they were kind of improvising furiously on the Infinity Saga and just sort of happened to nail it. And after you had that happen and made Endgame, the fact that you didn't get everybody you trusted in a room and plan out the next 3 phases of that thing, just the sheer hubris.
It feels like there was a big sigh of relief or something when they finished it. That
it was like, yeah, we can do anything now.
Yeah.
And everyone will just lap it up. And like for a while, we kind of did.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and that's the thing is like in my head, I'm thinking like this Downey Jr. thing, they're up to something. But at the same time, I thought that about a lot of the early Phase 4 stuff, and they were up to nothing. So I don't really trust them to have a plan anymore. So who knows what's going on?
Yeah.
But the Russo brothers are getting $80 million. And Robert Downey Jr. is getting, quote, substantially more than that. Now, that might just mean he's getting a cut of the box office, or he's getting, like, the Jack Nicholson percentage of the merch deal, or maybe everything, maybe all. But we can pretty safely assume that they are starting $200 million behind the starting line with these movies before a frame has been shot. So they better hope that these things hit, because that's a big bet.
I feel like they had no choice, though, but to make this bet.
I feel like they had a choice to not bring Robert Downey Jr. back.
Yeah. Well,
as Doom.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, the other part that bothers
me,
me, Matt, is that they got us involved with his character, and is it okay to have talk about spoilers now for that film?
Like, for what, Endgame?
Yeah.
The half-decade-old movie?
Yeah,
I think you're good.
They kill him off, and it destroys everybody. Like, everyone leaves the movie talking about how they cried when he died. It just feels like emotional terrorism a little bit.
Well, I mean, the multiverse is sort of, that's the nature of it.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, too.
That's even in play in Deadpool and Wolverine, you know, because the Wolverine in that is not, is not the Wolverine from the main movies you've already watched. That he's a different multiverse Wolverine.
I mean, it allows you to do whatever you want, but my question is the audience okay with it?
I don't think the audience is relevant.
Yeah. You don't think they'll care that, like, I cried watching this guy die as Iron Man, and now you're trying to tell me he's Doctor Doom?
Endgame's still there.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, he's a different, you're never even going to see his face.
That's the other question I have. Like, obviously, Doctor Doom wears a mask.
Right.
Are they ever going to take the mask off? Because that kind of killed the Halo show.
They have never taken the mask off in the comics.
Because
outside of, like, weird stories where he healed his face and then you see him like that.
Was it the real story, though, that he doesn't actually have a disfigured face? He just has a very small scar, and he's so concerned with perfection that he won't allow people to see the one scar?
That varies. There's some versions of it. There's that.
I love Doctor Doom, by the way. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters.
But, like, it depends. You know, it depends. Like, sometimes he is horribly disfigured, and you can't. You know, like, people can't even look at him without the mask on. And sometimes it's not. You know, other versions, it is like it's literally his vanity. That's a fan theory that was around for a while, and I think was messed with in a What If. So I mean, I think they're doing the right thing here, especially after Jonathan Majors imploded and you couldn't use Kang anymore. And I'll be honest, Kang is a D-lister.
Yeah, I agree.
Kang is a terrible villain in the comics. He's never really been very interesting, except in very recent reimaginings of how he works. And that requires a lot of multiversal versions of himself that basically leaves no room for anyone else in the story. I thought Majors was pretty good as Kang, and like the way they introduced him at the end of Loki season 1, where he's like the guy running the TVA, and the idea that the bad guy version in Ant-Man was like the rogue one, but the problem is, like, if you're trying to introduce the new Thanos, you're trying to introduce the new big bad, you can't have him show up in an Ant-Man movie and then have Ant-Man beat him.
Right.
Like, that's...
How bad is he if Ant-Man can whoop his ass?
The way to do that movie, if you absolutely insisted on bringing Kang in to an Ant-Man movie... And I will also point out that using Kang for that required you to go into that kind of microverse thing, which meant removing Ant-Man from the real world. And the fun of the Ant-Man movies is seeing like weirdly small and big things in the real world.
That's the whole theme.
Like, so once you remove that, there's no context to it, and like it's like, okay, he's like the size of Godzilla, but he's the size of Godzilla in this weird CG volume landscape, and I have no context for that. So why do I care? But the way to do it would be to have him kill Ant-Man, and the rest of them barely get away, and Cassie, his daughter, escapes and has to warn everybody that this guy is coming. And, like, that's how you make him a threat, is you have him kill... I mean, he walks in bragging about how he can't remember which one Ant-Man is because he's killed so many Avengers before, right?
Yeah.
And so... But in the end, he just sort of has a fist fight and some giant ants, and that's the... It's like, okay, well, what are you selling me here? And so even if Jonathan Majors hadn't blown his career... by not being able to allegedly not beat the shit out of a woman for, like, I don't know, a year,
right?
Like maybe
is it that hard?
Take some time off for a while while you're on top of the entire world. How about you just fucking cool it for a time? Like whose ego is that out of control?
It just shows you some people just can't.
I mean, when
themselves.
that all came up, the people who had worked with him in the theater up in, like, in New York and like Yale and stuff were basically like, we knew that.
They
all knew. Everybody knew. I was like, okay, well, we could have said something. And then, like, the thing with that, and it's like, are you vetting these people at all? Like you're pinning your whole fucking phase, your whole arc on these people, because there's another. Sound
like they could have talked to the
Namor
consulting
guy.
agency.
The Namor guy got in some trouble too, like for stuff in real life, and it's just like, how are you not putting these people through like vice presidential candidate?
Pretty much.
I mean, not that that's apparently happening anymore either, judging by some recent pick there. Look, guard your couches, but like, it's just like, I don't get it. And so like replacing Kang with, I mean, Doom is the Marvel villain. Doom is what the MCU. The only thing the MCU is missing is Doom at this point.
The Beyonder.
Well, the Beyonder is. Beyonder's nobody.
He's hard to personify.
Well, he's also 45 years old and irrelevant now.
Right.
Like the Secret Wars. This Secret Wars is not that Secret Wars.
Oh, it's not going to have him in it at all?
I would be very surprised. I will tell you where I think the Beyonder will show up, and that is the third Into the Spider-Verse movie.
Oh.
Because I believe that AI, the woman, the AI who's like talking to Spider-Man 2099 to Miguel. She's a Beyonder.
Oh.
I think she's a Beyonder.
Interesting.
And she's the one feeding Miguel lies, and that's why Miguel is doing all this weird shit. So Miguel's not a bad guy, but he is being lied. He's not lying, but he's being lied to. And I believe it's the AI.
Wow.
That's a whole
other story.
But the Secret Wars they are adapting is the Secret Wars from 2015.
Not the OG ones from the 80s.
In the Secret Wars from 2015, there were these things called incursions, which were mentioned in Doctor Strange 2, where another universe basically collapses in on the main universe, and the two Earths basically collide, and either both Earths collide and destroy both universes, or one Earth destroys the other Earth, and that universe is destroyed, and the one remains. And in the comics, there's this whole thing where they have to fight off a bunch of different Earths as they collide. And like Captain America didn't want to do it because you're basically killing the universe. And they're like, we don't, so they basically lie to Cap, and Strange does it once, and Black Panther does it once. They use the Infinity Gems to do it once, and then the Infinity Gems disintegrate, which has never happened before. So in the end, it just doesn't work anymore, and everything collapses into one universe. And it should have erased everything from all existence. But Doctor Doom, always up to some shit, figures out a way to gain control of like a sliver of reality, and he basically mashes every imaginable version of reality in Marvel universes into one reality. and he sets himself up as an omnipotent god over all of it. God Doom. God Emperor Doom.
Wow.
And so that created this world where, like, literally it's one world, but different versions of the Marvel Universe exist in different parts of the world. So, like, there's a little section down where, like, you'd think, like, this part of the continent is that's where the X-Men animated series from the 90s, that's the first time they were shown in a comic book in forever. Yeah. And I guarantee you in this Secret Wars movie, you will see animated X-Men in it.
Wow.
The animated X-Men will interact with live action people. That's one of my big predictions.
Wow.
My other big prediction for that movie is the big climax, like, cheering crowd moment thing is going to team up Robert Downey Jr., Tobey Maguire, and Hugh Jackman as Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Wolverine, the icons of each of the respective studios of Marvel over the years. They're going to have to team up to do something that, like, saves the day.
Okay.
That's going to be the big moment. That's my prediction for that.
All right. Let's...
But yeah, going with Doom is the right call. Like, when I saw that title, I'm like, yes, they fucking...
I'm very excited about that.
That's exactly what needs to happen. Doom needs to be the main villain. You're getting the Fantastic Four in. Galactus looks great, by the way.
Yeah.
He should be a big goofy dude in a weird hat. Like, awesome. Exactly. Starting them in the 60s, I've been saying for literally years, probably on this show a couple times, that you do the Fantastic Four, they need to be goofy, Silver Age people from a 1960s, like, retro future Disneyland-y sort of thing, and that's exactly what they're doing. I love it. There's a lot of stuff. The Downey Jr. casting as Doom is very weird to me, and it makes me think they're up to something. But
I like your idea.
Yeah,
I hope that's the truth.
Like, I've thought they've been up to something several times in the last, like, several years, and they haven't been. I don't know. I mean, they can't even get a fucking Blade movie made.
Yeah.
So what do I know?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let's look at chat and see what chat thinks about this. You know, we don't talk about stuff like this all that often on GameFace, but, you know, this transcends pretty much all of pop culture. So let's see what you guys are saying. A lot, actually. A lot. I don't even know where to start. Hey, guys, I had to pull myself away from the Olympics, matter of fact. We have to watch the Olympics on delay here. It's like, I don't even care. You know what happens before you even watch them.
Yeah, the frustrating thing about the Olympics is having to watch them filter through NBC's dog shit coverage. Like,
pretty much.
A day later. And so it's awful. It really is awful.
By MindX says, I think it was perfect that he died. They just need to make good movies without him. It's not so easy, though. People loved him as a character. Silk Snake says, 100% you will see his face. Yeah, I mean, I do. It's like they're going to show his face, right? Otherwise, why pay him, you know? But I don't want to see Dr. Doom's face, you know?
It would be, I mean, they're up to something.
Yeah, I think you're right. It makes more sense to me. Vortex Complex says, I only know Doom from rap music. A lot of people, that's the truth.
Yeah.
MF Doom, who died, by the way.
Yeah.
They need to bring him back.
Yeah. Like, well, and I mean, the other thing is, like, Doom's never been done right in the Fantastic Four movies. So, like, even if you have watched those movies, you don't really know anything about Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom is one of the best comic book characters of all time.
Yeah.
And if they can do him right, he'll be amazing. But, I mean, I don't see it. I just don't. If they are legitimately casting Downey Jr. as the actual Doctor Doom from now on, I'm not seeing what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Not to say anything about him as an actor. He's just not Doom.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I don't either. I don't think so either. Salsha says, can this cape stuff just die already? I don't want to see anything from any cinematic universe ever again. I mean, I think maybe you need to take yourself back to when the movies were coming out that you cared about and try to forget about the last few years.
Well, and the other thing I'll say is 150 movies come out every year. Yeah. Maybe 7 of them are superhero movies.
Yeah. There just seems like to be the ones that are always...
It's not some kind of deluge. The vast majority of movies are not, quote-unquote, cape shit, which instantly makes me discount your opinion. Is not really very interesting.
But they get all the marketing dollars.
They're never going away.
They aren't.
Superhero movies are here forever.
Yeah.
They've been around since before we were born.
Yeah.
Before I was. I mean, that's a long time.
They have. Yep. They kind of went in hiding for a while, but they were always there.
I mean, they were never big business beyond like individual characters, but like, and every once in a while they fuck them up, and Batman and Robin comes out, and then everyone says, "Oh, that's the end of superhero movies." And then Blade comes out, and it's not the end of superhero movies. Then Spider-Man 3 comes out, no, it's the end of superhero movies. And then the Dark Knight comes out, no, it's not the end of superhero movies. Really, the only consistent problem in superhero movies for most of our lives has been that no one can make a good Superman movie.
Well, actually, they still haven't done that.
Yeah, James Gunn, I think, will probably pull it off next year. The first good Superman movie in 40 years.
Eth Demon has a good question. Do they address it, or do they just ignore that it's the same actor? Do you think they'll actually have a plot reason for why he's Doom, or do you think they'll just expect you to just forget he used to be Iron Man?
I think the fact that the guy playing Iron Man is playing Doom is probably going to be a plot point of some kind because there's too much. It's multiverse shit.
Yeah, how do the characters not be like, hey, you're Iron Man?
If they even are the characters from that.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure that the Fantastic Four 60s is not the 60s of the MCU as we know it. Mm-hmm. You know, like where Iron Man's father is working at S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure that 60s is a different universe, and they're going to get sucked into the modern MCU.
Okay.
After whatever happens in their timeline. So it's very hard to say. Like, I mean, it's weird that you'd hire Robert Downey Jr. and not show his face.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they're up against. I mean, one of the writers from the old Avengers movies came back.
Okay.
So it's not both.
That's
of them.
good.
Because those guys both work for the Russo brothers production company. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it's one of the writers who did the good ones. If they have a plan, they have a plan. You know, and apparently that was also one of Downey Jr.'s conditions was that the Russos came back. Like he wouldn't do it.
Not surprised by that. Mitchell Ness says, "Did anyone really see him as Tony before he played him?" No, probably not. Although he was a perfect casting.
when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, flawless, perfect."
It's perfect casting. It really is.
I mean, Favreau had to go all in on that. He had to give up his director's salary to insure him because no insurance company would insure him for that because he'd been a problem over the years.
Right. Yeah.
But that was the big bet on that was could Downey Jr. basically
hold
it
together.
Yeah. And he did. I mean,
Yeah.
Favreau. That's one of. We go back through film history eventually, and Favreau's bet on his friend Robert is going to be one of the best decisions the directors ever made in the history of film.
It's true.
Like that's unquestionable. But as soon as I heard that he was playing Iron Man, I'm like, oh, perfect. Yeah. I mean, Iron Man literally has a lot of the same problems he does.
He does. Right. Yeah. He was good casting for sure. So anyway, that's the latest on the MCU. I know if we ever talk films,
there hasn't really been an MCU casting where I went, what?
Yeah,
until now.
Where I had to think about it really until now.
I mean, most of them it's like, oh yeah, that works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess
that makes sense.
I mean, I guess I'm not thrilled that Giancarlo Esposito is playing Sidewinder.
No, I'd agree with that too.
Because
that also raised an eyebrow.
That's just
for
a
me.
giant waste of Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
Like, unless he doesn't want to do anything.
I think he just wanted his foot in the door, hoping maybe later on down the road it pays off.
I mean, I know Peter. That is your Professor X. Giancarlo Esposito would be my pick for Professor X.
Actually, yeah, that'd be good casting
because he's got that perfect. Because in the comic, if you just know Dumbledore Professor X from the movies, he's not like that in the comics. In the comics, he is a shady little bastard.
He is. And he's a manipulator.
He can turn on a dime from like the warm father figure guy to the schemer, and like
ruthless.
Giancarlo Esposito can do that. We've seen him do that all the time. I mean, that was Gus Fring and Breaking Bad. That's one of the best. And you could totally have him be like that. You could believe for everything that he cares about all these kids and wants them, and then immediately turn around and do that look and like he's doing whatever weird shit he's doing. He's gonna go fuck a space bird. It's like absolutely.
That's great.
And I like the dichotomy between. I would want to play on the dichotomy between like Xavier and Magneto because Xavier has the noble dream, but he goes through underhanded methods to achieve it. Magneto has the not noble goal and dream, but he's very honest about it.
Yeah, he is.
And for a teenager, like a younger kid with these powers and the whole the metaphor of puberty and being different and LGBT and racism, all like have all that and that kind of oppression that's in play. To a kid in that situation, this guy who says nice things but there's something off about him versus this guy who says horrible things but he's being straight with you like you're an adult too, that's very appealing.
Yeah.
And that makes the choice to join Magneto way more understandable for these characters.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I just hope they get some good people for that because
they've been pretty. That's one thing they've been pretty good at.
They have. Yeah, but like I'm trying to think. I mean, even the stuff that didn't happen, it's like Mahershala Ali gonna be a great Blade if they ever make that fucking movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all the casting choices for the MCU have been pretty on target, and now you're sort of like, what are you doing?
It feels good for Comic-Con to be relevant again. I mean, there was COVID and all that stuff, but it really just hasn't been a story for a really long time. So it's kind of good to have that revival of the Comic-Con brand.
One was also
breaking probably the biggest story in entertainment.
It was also good. It was a good timing because they've never had an MCU movie come out the same weekend, and so they had Deadpool and Wolverine out, which has become the 6th biggest movie opening of all time.
That's hard to believe.
Only
because the reviews haven't been great.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't.
I mean, the reviews were like 78.
Oh, they are?
Overall. Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were bad, actually.
No, they're good.
Okay.
They're not glowing, but they're fine.
Yeah, good enough, apparently. If it still had that kind of a debut, it's definitely good enough.
I mean, people want to see Wolverine.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
And no, it is the number 6 biggest domestic opening of all time. It's
crazy.
It's only behind other Avengers movies, Spider-Man, and Star Wars.
Pent-up demand, I think, helps, too.
Some of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there hasn't really been anything else of note this summer except for Inside Out 2, which is not the same audience.
Yeah, completely different audience. Yep. So anyway, that's the cultural stuff around Comic-Con 2024. We're going to talk about the limited game stuff that was there. That seemed to be the biggest story everyone was talking about, and it kind of had leaked before Comic-Con, but then was backed up at Comic-Con. Netflix is working on a BioShock film.
Also, Danny Endurance notes it's a 56 on Metacritic. That's because there's the Rotten Tomatoes counts basically 98, 100 reviews, and Metacritic is counting 300 plus from a whole bunch of nobodies.
Right. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Metacritic is a fairly useless movie review source if you're just looking at the number. Because
the one thing I will say is if you read the smaller movie review websites, they're pretty awful, man.
Yeah.
The writing is so bad. I'm shocked that some of those people in those publications get into the Metascores. I read some of those reviews, I'm like, this person has no business contributing to a Metascore on any film. So, yeah,
it happens a lot.
I hear you. So one of the big gaming-related things from Comic-Con is the BioShock movie that Netflix is working on. I was excited about it. I think everybody was. BioShock is a gaming property that I feel like is custom-made for films. And then we kind of got the carpet yanked out from underneath us, Matt. Netflix has said that it is cutting the budget for the movie. And maybe that wouldn't normally be that big of a deal, but for BioShock, I think it kind of is. It feels like you need a big effects budget to do BioShock correctly. Am I crazy?
I mean, you need a big art design budget more than anything else. I would try to do real sets and big places,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, Netflix is cutting back on a bunch of things right now. It's not really specific to BioShock because I think they're realizing spending $5-6 billion a year on making stuff that doesn't actually drive subscriptions is not helping them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm skeptical about the whole BioShock movie thing.
Me too.
I don't think it's very well suited to a TV show.
Do you think because it's the story is always self-contained in each game, it kind of
partly,
does
but also
a new
because
thing?
So much of the reason the story works, especially in the first BioShock, is that you are a nobody, that you don't know who you are, and you're all kind of piecing it together through context, and you can't see yourself, you can't really tell what's happening. The whole I guess you could do a different story or just the story. I mean, my guess would be if I was going to be forced to do a Netflix show about this, given how Netflix works and how boring shit on Netflix
It's a film,
has to
by
be.
the way. It's not a show.
Right, but I would probably make it as Andrew Ryan establishing. I do it as Andrew Ryan establishing Rapture and it falling apart. Mm-hmm. It would be the immediate story of all that happening, as opposed to the game, which is sort of finding out what happened after the fact.
I do think they made the right choice in choosing a film over a show because I think you're right. I don't think BioShock works as a TV show at all for what we discussed. But as a film, it kind of does because you can just do the first movie that's just Rapture. Second movie is BioShock 2.
I didn't specifically mean TV show. I mean making BioShock not a video game is a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Because
any cultural
anything. Because I mean, you could do something different with the theme of BioShock, I guess, but the whole point of BioShock is it's about choice, and there is no choice in a film.
Yeah.
There's no you can't have that same. You'd have to come up with a different way of having that same kind of impact by portraying. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
I mean, I think that
you're making it would be like making a Shadow of the Colossus movie. You're making a completely different thing at this point.
I think it has interesting settings and characters.
Right.
Where you make them go, other than just completely aping the plot of the game, I don't know.
Like I said, if I was going to be forced to make a non-game thing out of BioShock, I would simply do the fall of Rapture.
Yeah.
That way you get a big cast. Everybody gets to have fancy 20s costumes sort of stuff. You get a big weird climax where everybody goes crazy during the New Year's celebration. People start throwing fireballs everywhere. Like you get a couple people that have to try to make it out and then they don't. And like you just got a bunch of crazy people laying around at the end. And then you're like, okay, if you want to find out what happens, go play the BioShock remaster available right now. You know, like that'd be how I'd play it.
Yeah.
But I think telling this sort of after the fact, pick up the pieces, and fight the survivors story. I think that works for this game. I don't think that works for a movie or a TV show. You have to be invested in sort of what's happening moment to moment from the point of view of this character, who is not really a character. It's just you.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't really work in a non-interactive setting. So my guess would be this movie is going to be about the fall of Rapture, not the would you kindly guy coming back and having this all happen.
Yeah.
The same elements are there. The Big Daddies are already, all that stuff is there in the fall of Rapture.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
And you could, that way you could get away with maybe only one scene with a Big Daddy, where the first Big
Instead
Daddy
of having
goes crazy.
every scene with a Big Daddy.
Yeah, you could even maybe weave in some BioShock 2 stuff, because some of that's in the pre-fall stuff too. Like you could set this, basically be a prequel to the games would be how I'd do it.
Okay.
My honest opinion, I'd be like, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Like it's fine as it is.
Yeah.
Also, BioShock is a very old franchise, and a lot of people don't even know what it is.
Oh yeah, the kids won't know what it is now.
It's been 12 years.
Yeah.
11 years.
Yeah, which is kind of hard to believe, but it has been that long. My interest in the film has definitely lessened since I learned that they're not pushing as much money towards it as I thought that they would. But again, I do think that, just for the average person, not us, seeing Rapture for the first time, I think that's a powerful moment. I do think the setting could have an impact, even if people don't know what BioShock is. It's when you see it for the first time, it is something different, like you've never seen before. But then, to your point, what do you do after that? You make the big first impression, but then you have to back it up with actual characters that people care about and a story that will keep them interested for 90 minutes or 2 hours. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm glad that they didn't say they canceled it, because that's probably what was the other option on the table was like we drop the budget or we just drop it altogether.
Yeah. Well, and also keep an eye out for more video game adaptations to get quietly shut down, as Borderlands proves that it's not a winning formula out of the gate.
That was the next big story. The other big story out of Comic-Con for gamers, they showed the final trailer for the Borderlands film. Matt, I have no clue whether this movie is going to be decent or not. I've seen 3 or 4 trailers for it. Like, parts of it are funny, parts of it are dumb.
I will say that the Borderlands trailer ran with our sold-out opening night screening of Wolverine, Deadpool Wolverine, and it's the only trailer that ran that the audience had literally no reaction to.
Dead silence when it ended.
Complete silence.
That's pretty much all I need to hear then.
I don't think, and that's your target.
Yeah.
Folks. These people
that's the wheelhouse.
Everybody cheered for Cap 5, and what was the other? There was another one. Everybody booed most people booed the Joker 2.
Oh, really?
Which is good.
Not because they don't want to see it, but
no, because
oh, really?
The Joker was trash, and
people like it though, or liked it.
Well, it made
I don't
$1 billion.
know if on hindsight
it made $1 billion. It appealed to a very specific kind of person.
Yeah,
I think. But it ain't the Joker. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just Todd Phillips wanting to make a shitty remake of King of Comedy and tricking Warner Brothers into I'll make it with a Joker. And so yeah. I hate that movie. That's one of the.
You mean the first Joker?
Yeah. Obviously I haven't seen this one.
Yeah.
I'm curious how all the incel dude bros who made that their whole personality are going to feel about the fact that it's a delusional musical jukebox comedy now. Like I'm not sure how that's going to play with that target audience.
I think we can all guess.
Like I can kind of respect the fact that Todd Phillips is just like, I'm just gonna keep doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
All this stupid shit I want to do, I'm just gonna do it with double the budget now, because Warner Brothers doesn't know where it's going, and Warner Brothers doesn't understand why my first one made $1 billion, so I have a blank check. So, in that sense, more power to him, because
it's surprising it's taken this long for the second one.
Well, some of that was the pandemic.
Makes sense.
And he wanted this to be a big, it's a big musical, basically. It's a. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of positive response to that. And then the last time I don't remember the last thing I saw, but before that at the Chinese theater, but that trailer ran, and some guy a few rows behind me just goes, nope. at the end of, and like everybody like, yeah. Like,
it feels like every movie Kevin Hart is in sucks.
Oh, not Borderlands, Joker.
Oh, I know. I'm just talking about Borderlands.
I mean, I don't know why they thought this was a good idea.
Yeah. When I saw the first trailer, I was like, okay, like maybe there's a chance. Then I saw the second. Then the second thing I saw was like a 2-minute clip. And even in the 2-minute clip, it dragged a little bit. Yeah, there's nothing and I was like, oh, okay. Like,
well, the other thing is like, this game, I mean, not that I don't like Borderlands, but it's like Borderlands is a mishmash of influences from all these other different movies and things.
Yeah.
There's not really an original bone in his body.
Yeah.
And you put it on screen, and it's just like, so what is this? Like Mad Max with the serial number file? Like, especially especially in a year with Furiosa.
Right.
So like, why?
Why?
Yeah. It's like, why would you? It's like getting the Walmart brand
Is
after
that
you've
truth,
already
Matt?
gotten the.
Is you watch. More people will go see the Borderlands movie than went to see the new Mad Max movie.
I don't know about that. I mean, Mad Max...
It won't take many. Because obviously...
Yeah, Mad Max didn't do great.
Yeah.
Furiosa didn't do great. My thing is just like... One thing that we've proven this year is that if the audience isn't interested, they ain't going to the theater.
Yeah.
Like, they will let it... I mean, May was a giant disaster for everything that came out. Not just Furiosa, except for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Everything bombed.
Yeah, it was a tough month for sure.
And, like... It did so. Like, I don't think that had anything to do with Furiosa. It was just like no one was going to the movies in May except for Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Why Planet of the Apes seems to be bulletproof, I don't know. But also King Kong got terrible fucking Godzilla movie. Did well too. Maybe it's just apes.
It could be.
Because that's a comic book related thing too. I don't know if you know this, but back in the Silver Age, back in the 60s or 50s, at one point there was a comic that DC put out that sold like 4 times what all the other comics normally did, and it had a gorilla on the cover. So for years, DC editorial had a mandate that you had to try to put apes on the covers of the comics because they thought that was what did it.
That's hilarious.
And so for years, you'll see like random gorilla. That's why like the Gorilla Grodd thing. There was this period in comics where like there were just fucking ape villains and ape things everywhere, and that's why, because one month this one comic with the gorilla on the cover sold like quadruple what comics usually did, and
that's
no
insane.
one knew why, and that's the best guess they had.
No rhyme or reason to a lot of this.
No one knows what they're doing. It's like,
or there's just no way to know how to do things correctly. I feel like that working with YouTube. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to why anything works on there. It's like 6 months ago, our YouTube channel just out of nowhere just started growing. And it lasted for 2 months, and then it's like somebody just shut the pipe off, and like we cannot get another subscriber to save our lives.
I don't understand some of the other like there is a channel a board game channel I like to watch called Slicker Drips. It's this British guy who does I think he does really good playthroughs of things. I am subscribed to him. I have the bell rung. I am a Patreon subscriber of his. YouTube will not pop his stuff up in my fucking algorithm. Like I never see his videos pop up in my every other kind of board game or video game or anything, history stuff, everything you think of, everybody I follow or subscribe to or Patreon, they're all in there. But for whatever reason, this dude never does. And he, of course, only has like 20,000 followers or something on there. And I'm like, why aren't you showing me this?
I'm subscribing to this guy.
Subscribe to him. Like
Yeah.
I'm like he put up a new playthrough of Eldritch Horror a while ago, and I'm like, oh great, I can't wait to see that. And then I kind of forgot about it because I saw the email, and like a week later, I'm like, where was that?
You never showed up in your feed.
I never saw it. It never showed up.
So bizarre.
I don't get it.
We've been wrestling with YouTube.
Like I have told you that I want to see that, and in the meantime, you're like constantly trying to show me ASMR videos. I gotta I'm not trying to go to sleep. I'm trying to watch something. Like, what are you doing?
Here's something crazy that happened to me the other day. We were at my wife's birthday dinner, and I cracked a joke about Janet Jackson randomly. Just something happened. I was like, oh, Miss Janet, if you're nasty or whatever.
Nasty, yeah.
That's exactly the joke I cracked. We go home. I sit down on the couch and turn on YouTube on my TV, and there's a Janet Jackson video in the feed.
With her, like, with the guy, like, sitting down.
It's her. It's nasty.
Yeah.
It was the nasty video.
Yeah, it just popped up because she did some big on stage thing with that.
Dude, like, they are listening to you all the time. I have never, ever watched anything Janet Jackson on YouTube. I have never searched for Janet Jackson. We come back from dinner where I crack a Janet Jackson joke, and it is on my TV. Like, my wife was like, what the F, man? Like, it's the first time I've talked to her about this, and she thinks I'm just some weird tech guy that's like, oh, sure, they're listening to us. And then it finally hit her. She's like, oh my God. Like, okay, maybe you've been right about this crap all along. It's really bizarre. But anyway.
I mean, I also saw Janet Jackson that day.
Oh, you did?
Because that was it went viral. Like, it was a thing where she was like, had this guy all like kind of tied up like on stage and like did the whole Ms. Jackson if you're nasty bit with him. So
I think
like,
it was the music video for the song.
Right, but I'm saying like Janet Jackson bubbled up through the algorithm for almost everybody that day because
that's just an insane. That would be an insane coincidence.
It is an insane coincidence.
It would be
because like I thought the same thing like because that popped up a few days ago and I'm like, God, I haven't thought about that in forever. And like it was because it was a news. I didn't see it on YouTube. It was a news story like or a Twitter about a tweet about like oh this happened and here's a video for doing it with this dude. And like it's like this guy probably wasn't even alive when that song first came out.
Yeah. A lot of people weren't. Yeah. That song's what, like 30 years old at this point?
Up there, yeah.
So anyway, there's one other story from Comic-Con that pretty much is strictly game related, but not really because the tie-ins are all related to pop culture.
You're missing one.
What am I missing?
It's a minor one. It's important to me.
What was that?
It was that Legacy of Kain statue.
Right.
The Soul Reaver remaster.
You're right. We talked about that. Yeah. Also, apparently there are remasters of the first two Legacy of Kain games coming.
Well, the second two.
The second two. There's figurines there.
Yeah, there's
Comic-Con.
a big figurine, and there's a comic coming out, like some kind of side story comic or something. But no, it was a label for it's Kain versus Raziel, it's a little statue thing, and it just has a little logo. It says Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what's that?
Just on some little placard
right
on figurines.
And it's a designed logo.
Oh,
it's not like someone wrote it down. It's a logo.
It's legit. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And I'm very curious what that's going to be because, like, famously, those games were kind of supposed to be one game. They were sort of cut in half. And they couldn't finish it. And that's why so many things are like kind of weird dead ends in Soul Reaver 1. And then Soul Reaver 2 is just literally you run down a corridor encountering cutscenes. And then you get to the end, and then you run all the way back to the beginning. Like, it's literally a pipeline back and forth. Yeah. It's got some of the best writing in video games at the time. But
thanks to Amy Hennig.
Or Amy Hennig made her name, basically. But, like, yeah. But I'm like, if you want to get ambitious, you want to really wow me with a remaster of those games, you put them together. Yeah. You put them together into one thing.
And I think that's probably what they're doing.
I would love that. Yeah. That would be amazing.
Well, then the final story is Mortal Kombat 1. We hinted at this because this stuff kind of leaked out. But there is a plethora of new characters coming, and most of them are film-related, but not all of them. Ghostface from the Scream film franchise, Noob Saibot, Sector, Cyrax, Conan, and then T-1000 are all coming in September to Mortal Kombat 1. And then at the end of this trailer, they also show something that hasn't been in MK for a while, which is animalities. They've brought those back. Fans seem to be really excited about that. I didn't care so much, but I think these new characters will make a big, big splash. I mean, that's a huge roster of characters to come out in a very short period of time. So I think also Ed Boon said at Comic-Con that he suspects that Mortal Kombat 1 is going to live on for another few years.
Yeah, apparently they have more story content in the pipeline.
And tons more characters. He's like, we're going to have like story DLC and characters for like 2 or 3 years from now. Which, that's just kind of the way things are at this point, let's be honest. That's just kind of the way the industry works. But I guess Mortal Kombat has just become this franchise where anything goes, kind of like Smash Brothers.
Yeah. You might as well.
I mean, they roughly try to have it make sense, but does it?
Well, they don't try to integrate the out of brand guest characters into the story. Like that would be And although they do to some degree, like have the intro lines kind of contextualize it like surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Like having everybody do lines with every other character is always that's an extra mile thing I always appreciate with the NetherRealm stuff.
I wonder if they'll bring back the original guy who played Ghostface from the first Scream.
Judging by the
what's his name? Do you remember the actor's name that played the killer in the first Scream?
I mean, one of them was Matthew Lillard, right?
I think so.
And what was it? What's the other guy? Because there was two of them. It was both of them.
Were both of them?
Yeah. It was both.
Oh, you're right. It was a team. They were teaming up. Yeah.
And the other guy, I can't remember his name.
That's the guy I can't remember either. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
It doesn't matter because it's very clear. If you look at the character model, it's a girl.
Oh, it's a girl.
The most recent Scream.
Oh, I haven't seen the most recent Scream. And the killer was a girl in that? Yeah. I did not know that. Is it Sydney?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either. So anyway,
Skeet Ulrich. Thank you, Eric Cartman.
Skeet Ulrich. Yeah,
yes, I would never have remembered that name.
Yeah. I wouldn't have either. He's been in a bunch of stuff though.
I've been like, the shocking thing for me on these is how many of these like
in Arnold is Conan. That's pretty great.
Dumbass Gen Z kids are just like, who the hell knows who Conan and this cop are?
Yeah,
I'm just like, who raised you? Because you.
And here's the animalities, which are quite elaborate.
They're cool, yeah. They're definitely better than the weird glowing monster biting someone in half from the old game.
Yeah. Whoa, wow. I didn't watch all of these. They're pretty hardcore. Wow, a pufferfish.
I mean, it's the right kind of goofy.
Yeah. I mean, it's Mortal Kombat. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, it's cool. You got Robert Patrick for the voice. They have an Arnold. I think the same Arnold impersonator as the Terminator from the last game.
Yeah.
But he looks like him, so that's fine.
I got his likeness. Yeah, that's a big deal.
I would like to. I would love to see them bring all the previous guest characters back, so you can have like, the Terminator versus T-1000.
Yeah.
Jason versus Freddy versus Ghostface versus. I mean, I'll also admit when I first read that, I'm like, from Wu-Tang?
Right.
Like that would be a little more interesting.
Ghostface Killer.
Ghostface Killer would be actually more of a draw for me at this point.
Well, then it's like they're doing a crossover with Def Jam at that point, which is another game everybody wants.
I'm all for it.
Yep.
Bring back all the Def Jam people. I'm into it.
Yeah. But anyway, that's pretty much it from Comic-Con 2024.
Let Ice Cube design his own fatality. That's what I say.
Yeah. A few stories, but not a lot. It does feel like gaming has kind of stepped to the side and allowed movies, film, TV, comics to kind of take center stage. And I'm okay with that. We don't need another game convention that happens in the middle of August. Like, Gamescom's coming up here in like 2 weeks. Like, we don't really need it. I'm totally okay with Comic-Con going back to what it used to be. And I think a lot of people would maybe be thankful for that.
I mean, I've never associated Comic-Con with big game news. Previously, it was so soon after E3, you didn't really learn anything new. It was just like...
You get like Dragon Ball, whatever stuff.
Little anime things that tied in with stuff. Maybe you got to play some of the demos that were at E3 on the floor.
Right.
Yeah. That was about it.
That was it. Yep. So anyway, it looks like Comic-Con has returned to its roots, and I think most people will be okay with that. Let's see. Next up, Matt, have you played Fallout London?
No.
So it is a fan-made mod of Fallout 4 that right now, Matt, I'm not 100% sure if are they allowed to sell it?
No.
Because it's like certain mods you can sell, and you do a revenue share with Bethesda.
Yeah, you go
with that.
This is not through Bethesda.
Yeah, this is all like outlaw stuff, right? Yeah, and it's going through Good Old Games.
Yeah, I mean it's free.
It is free.
Yeah.
So Good Old Games is just like we'll just put up the servers.
They're curating it basically.
Gotcha. Yeah. Are you interested in this?
I am, but I just didn't get around to it.
Yeah, this has been in the works for like 6 or 7 years or something.
Almost since Fallout 4 came out.
Yeah, I almost had forgotten about it, and then out of nowhere, it's like, here it is. Here's the launch trailer.
I mean, it's ambitious.
I mean, it looks better than Fallout 4, and that's all we got. Does it look better than Fallout 76? That's the big question.
I don't know.
Yeah,
probably not. That's okay.
I wonder why, if this is free, why did they work so long on it?
Labor of love.
I guess so. I mean, it's just
also because I know some of it is because they know that Bethesda's never making a Fallout outside of the United States.
Yeah,
like you're never getting a real Fallout London.
Yeah,
so why not?
Was this made in Europe?
Probably.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too.
I don't know much about. I would hope that the people ringleading this are in London.
Yeah,
that would make a lot of sense.
Timing's worked out great for him, though. Obviously, with the show just wrapping up and being a huge hit, probably couldn't have picked a better time to release it because it's not like...
Well, it was supposed to be out a few months ago, but the big update to Fallout 4 that broke everything basically pushed them back a while because they had to fix a bunch of stuff.
You mean the version of Fallout 4 where they're like, now you can use mods and everything? And
well, the version where they're like, I don't remember what the point of it was, but it broke most of the mods that existed.
Yeah.
I know they added a bunch of their own like curated things, but like the non-curated stuff all just didn't work anymore.
This is insane, by the way. As you keep watching this trailer, the fans made this game. Yeah. I mean, you could watch this, you would never know this is made by fans and not by Bethesda.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a little too good to be Bethesda. Right?
Well, it is like 8 years later or 10 years later, so it should look better than the base Fallout 4. But wow, I mean, that's pretty incredible, man.
I mean, that's been, it's like that Forbidden City or whatever, that mod that came out for Skyrim, which is basically like a fantasy Rome thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these games give you really powerful tools if you're willing to really put the time and the effort into it, and they did.
Yeah.
So here you are.
I mean, it is cool too that, if you are so inclined, you can grab the tools and you can start making mods, and you get paid for those mods as long as you work within the parameters that Bethesda gives you.
Yeah, I don't think I'd bother with that. I would want to make something better than that.
I would never bother with any of this stuff, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm going to make a game, I'm going to make my own damn game.
Yeah, I mean, they did. That's the thing. I mean, they kind of did make their own damn game, except it's Fallout.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make my own damn game that I can sell. I guess they
get big donations. They can't sell the game, but you can go donate to them.
Yeah, I'm sure they have like a Patreon or something.
Well. They've been very well through that.
Yeah,
you can't prove anything on that.
Yeah, so. That's true. Yeah, but this is stunning to me. This is probably the best looking fan mod I've ever seen. Can you think of a better one?
The TIE Fighter Total Conversion mod looks better than
really?
This. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, obviously they're doing a lot less there. It's TIE Fighters in space and Star Destroyer. No, the total conversion and remakes of X-Wing and TIE Fighter they could be professional products.
I mean, these could be too, I think.
It could be, but like from years ago. The TIE Fighter looks like it could come out yesterday.
Like today. Gotcha. Yeah, this looks like it's an old game still, but it looks just like Fallout 4. It's really bizarre. Kudos to the guys who made this. Like, you're right. It is a labor of love, and I do admire that. I would never do it, but I admire that somebody else did it.
Yeah, I mean,
because they knew all along they're never going to be able to monetize it. So it truly was just like, hey, we want to do this. Let's just make it. And I think that's really cool. It's very punk rock, actually, to just do it and not worry about the financial side of it. So I admire the spirit of the developers on that project and their end product, but I wouldn't do it. I'll say that much. The Retro Modern Gamer says the Black Mesa mod remaking Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 looks really good. That would probably be the other very close competitor for sure. Vincent says apparently people who work in the industry say now that if you want a job, modding a game is closer to what you'll do in a real job than creating something from scratch. Mm-hmm. That is 1,000% true. Yeah. In fact, I think some developer just literally said that like a couple weeks ago. Like
modding something or making something, and it used to be Unity. I don't know if people trust Unity anymore.
I think maybe CD Projekt Red said that's where how they hire people. They look for people who are modding their game.
That is where they got a lot of cyberpunk people, especially for the updates. I think where people who are already working, already working on fixes for it. Yeah, and they're just like, you want to come get paid for that?
I mean, it's really great because we've said it before, but the tools are so good now that like. Who builds them? No one really builds a game from scratch anymore. It just doesn't happen unless you're like a first-party PlayStation studio, maybe a first-party Nintendo studio does it. But, I mean, most developers start working on something that's there and build upon it, whether it's tools, Unreal Engine 5, whatever. All those libraries and those things, people have been working on them now for decades. It's very different developing games now, and all for the better, I would add. Retro Modern Gamer says Valve and Bethesda hire modders as well. Yeah.
I remember I had a friend who was working on he didn't finish it, but he was working on a mod for Skyrim to make the combat work like Dark Souls. And I told Todd Howard about that, and he looked right at me and said, "Does he want a job?" they are absolutely 100% willing to bring in the best of the modding community as part of their team. Like they know those guys are worth it.
That's a question people like you and I used to get all the time. Like if I would meet fans at E3 or at Comic-Con or wherever, they'd be like, "Hey Shane, blah blah blah," and we'd have a conversation, and they'd always ask like, "How do I get in the industry?" And it was always 50-50. Either they wanted to be journalists or they wanted to be developers. I hope you guys all chose to be developers, by the way. But then they would be like, "Well, how do I start?" And back then, I would be like, "You need to go, you go to school, you learn how to program, learn C," and it's totally different now. It really is. Like I would never tell someone to be like a computer science major now if they want to make games. Like I would just say like just start doing shit. That's what they want. Like they don't care what degree you have from Full Sail University, wherever you go to do that stuff. Just make the stuff.
They want you to graduate from high school. That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. And then if you can prove your mettle, working on mods, working on their engine, they're gonna hire you. And that's a good shift. It's good that people don't have to spend a ton of money going to school now just to have a chance to get a job.
But when you do get a job, unionize.
Right, which is happening now.
Yeah, it is.
Like across the board, like almost all developers are unionized. It's great to see. So anyway.
Speaking of Bethesda.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, that just happened 2 days ago, right? Yeah, pretty much the whole company just unionized, which is amazing. So anyway, we like to show off fan-made stuff every once in a while because I believe it can inspire some of you guys to do the very same thing and make some amazing stuff. So Fallout London, free on goodoldgames.com. It sounds like it's a full-fledged Fallout game.
Full Fallout game.
It's going to take you like dozens of hours to complete. So if you're jonesing for Fallout after watching the show and Fallout 76 didn't do it for you, this is a pretty good alternative. Next up, Matt. We've talked about Overwatch 2 a little bit here and there over the last 6 months. We're like, what's going on? It seems like they're being very flim-flammy and wishy-washy with stuff, and now they're doing it again. Blizzard just put it out there that they're contemplating going back to 6 versus 6 gameplay in Overwatch 2, which was the major change for Overwatch 2. It's the reason Overwatch 2 exists. Well, the other reason was there's supposed to be story-based content that has turned out to also not happen. It's like, this is the sequel that never should have existed.
Yeah. I mean, they dug their own grave on this one in a number of ways.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Overwatch player. I've played it a lot, but, playing 30 hours or 40 hours of Overwatch 1 and then playing 15 or 20 hours of Overwatch 2, I'm not really a serious Overwatch player. Now, you talk to someone who isn't into games, they'd be like, what are you talking about? How can you do anything that long and not be an expert on it? But that's how these games are. I don't understand the meta. I don't understand still how characters snap together and how you can have good tandems that can work together moving across the map. I don't get all of the minutia of playing Overwatch 2. But when I played Overwatch 2, I could not tell the difference between it and the first Overwatch. I know for people who are hardcore Overwatch players, that extra player makes a big difference. To me, it made no difference. I think if you go back and look at our review for Overwatch 2 when it first came out, I don't remember this specifically, but I bet you I probably said, I don't see the difference. They should have just added these characters and these maps to the first Overwatch. And now here we are, years later, and that's exactly what has basically happened. It's just Overwatch 1 with the extra characters and the extra maps and maybe a couple extra modes here and there, but not even those have really stuck around. They've tried new modes. People like them for a while, but inevitably it goes back to the same, 2 or 3 match types that people know Overwatch for. So I don't know what Blizzard is doing. Blizzard kind of feels like a mess, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, look, the deck chairs are over here now.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like.
Please ignore the iceberg.
Yeah. I mean, is it safe to say we'll never get an Overwatch 3 now?
I would guess. I don't know. If we did, I think it would be a very different game.
Yeah. I don't think and it probably wouldn't be called Overwatch.
Yeah.
Or it would have some weird subtitle. It wouldn't be Overwatch 3 or something. How long has it been since you played this game, Matt?
When did it come out?
When it came out? Is that the last time you played it? You haven't gone back?
No.
Yeah. It feels like a lot of people are that way. And maybe that's part of the problem. It feels like Blizzard is in scramble mode.
I mean, I don't know anyone who plays this game anymore. And I used to know people that would go to all the live events, and that screwed them too, because when they switched to the 5v5, suddenly there were fewer people needed on a team.
Yeah.
And a lot of the pro teams, you had to cut back on that. It was very weird.
I mean, isn't it weird just in general to create a sequel that has less players?
Especially when the sequel was just replacing the first one and they tried to keep it pretty much continuous. Basically the
handover from the first game.
Yeah, the game became Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 didn't just come out.
No, you're right. It wasn't just this cutoff and then a launch of a new product. It just kind of bled together, the two games, for sure. I mean, I know why they did it. They were trying to go after that Call of Duty audience, that 5 versus 5 audience. But this game is so different from Call of Duty. It's absurd to think that was ever going to happen. I don't know. It feels like Blizzard has kind of lost its way in some ways. It's I like Diablo 4, but was it all that different from Diablo 3 and Diablo 2? Not really. And obviously, I think one thing you could say is Blizzard has done a good job managing World of Warcraft, because you can't have a game as a service that lasts that long without knowing what you're doing. But otherwise, it just feels it doesn't feel like Blizzard is Blizzard anymore to me.
Well, no, all the people that made Blizzard are long gone.
Yeah.
They've been gone for a long time.
And it's coming through in the games ultimately.
You've got
the decision making.
It's sort of the thing the problem you had with the Star Wars prequels was and not that there's a George Lucas at Blizzard, but it's the original trilogy was made by filmmakers who were all working together as equals to make these movies.
Yeah.
The prequels were made by people who grew up as fans of the original trilogy, and that is going to be a different dynamic. And one of the things I think you'll see is like, like look at the people who are whining constantly about Star Wars and claiming to be Star Wars fans. Like, imagine how
they fans.
Imagine how terrible the Star Wars content they would make would be.
Yeah.
That's who's making a lot of these like things at legacy companies, and instead of making and Overwatch, I think was a good thing because it was a new thing. It was not just rehashing Diablo again or rehashing Warcraft again or Starcraft again. Obviously, they were. I mean, they had an advantage even by their own admission, having built it off the ruins of Project Titan. Like there was a lot of work there done already. That's one of the reasons all these characters were so defined and had such backstories and things to draw from.
Yeah, I mean that's work that never goes away. Yeah.
And over time, it was clear that Blizzard, at least the management, got less and less interested in doing that. And so the new stuff didn't really have that kind of life to it. I don't know. I mean, meanwhile, they're constantly trying to make fetch happen with the Overwatch League and
which was a miserable failure and it's gone now.
They were trying. How much were they trying to sell that team for?
The team,
like $20 million.
Yeah. The franchises were $20 million a piece.
Crazy.
Because they did the whole city thing where they're like, we're gonna have a team in Philly, we're gonna have a team in LA, instead of just having teams. They had tried to make it regional so fans would care and like root for their local Overwatch team. That did not work.
Not at all. And like the problem, and like for a while, I mean, the big problem I think happened was they hit that point where they're like, okay, all the teams have to go to their respective cities now. And like
they're traveling, and that costs a ton of money.
And time, and it's just you had to find venues everywhere. It just
poor
didn't
decision
make any
making. It's plagued Blizzard for a while now. I mean, it really does feel like there's been a lot of brain drain there, where they had a lot of smart people working for them before that aren't there anymore, and they don't have people making smart decisions any longer. So it's been really disappointing to see Blizzard fade. That's a developer that if you had talked to me 12 years ago, I'd have been like, they're going to be golden forever.
Nothing gold can stay.
It's true. I mean, it's foolish to think that, but if there was one studio back then, if you'd have come to me and asked me, like, what's the one studio that you think 25 years from now is going to be just as good or maybe better than they are now, Blizzard would have been one of those studios. And the opposite has happened. But it just shows you, it's like it's not about the brand or even the IP, it's about the people that work there. And once those people go, we learned it with Rare. When Microsoft bought Rare and most of their best developers left and went other places, Rare never made a 9 out of 10 game ever again.
No, I learned it with Infinity Ward.
Yeah.
Modern Warfare 3 was not the same after all the core people went to go to form Respawn.
Yep. Yeah. So, again, it is all about the people. It's not really
Uncharted
about...
4 was not the same after all. Amy Hennig was forced out and took her people with her.
That's a good point, too. Yep. It's all about the people. That's what really makes the difference when you're making art. So... It's disappointing to see what's happened at Blizzard. I probably should have had better foresight than I did to see this coming, but wow, what a fall we've seen with that studio.
And I wonder what the fallout will be. I mean, it's obviously you can't predict everything because Microsoft owns them now, and who knows what Microsoft will do with that. Because I don't think Microsoft is buying Overwatch. I'm sure they're interested in Diablo and Warcraft and
StarCraft and
I'd be surprised if we didn't see StarCraft come back in some form.
It has to.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I mean, that was kind of the thing. Is like if you were assuming Blizzard was just going to make those 3 franchises over and over again, you'd probably be right that they'd stay pretty solid.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately, they tried new things.
Yeah, they branched out too much. What are you doing?
And made a mistake. So anyway, it looks like Overwatch 2 is turning back into Overwatch again. So I guess I would say is if you're somebody who really loved Overwatch and then didn't like Overwatch 2, you may want to go back and give Overwatch 2 a look now because it's just reverting back to what it was.
Or just let it die quietly in the corner.
Yeah, which kind of seems to be what is happening.
Is this the game equivalent of recasting Robert Downey Jr.?
It might be. It might be, absolutely. So anyway, that's the latest on Overwatch 2 and Blizzard. Next up, today officially is the date of death for the Xbox 360, Matt.
Wasn't that yesterday?
I guess in some territories it went on until today. Our time it went on until today. But yeah, for America it was yesterday. The store closed for the Xbox 360 yesterday. It is no more. You cannot buy any more games. We tried to warn you about this on SIFTD. I
mean, I looked at the list of stuff and I'm like, no, I got everything. I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, I have a huge Xbox 360 library. Between the games that they are giving away for free every month for Xbox Live Gold and just being a journalist for the entire generation where I was getting every game sent to me for free for years and years, I would say maybe Xbox 360 is my biggest library that I have of any console.
It's up there.
Is one of them. So I'm like you. Like, and I will say this, they were given great prices. Like, you could get stuff dirt cheap, but like I had it all. I started looking through my library.
It's funny that like some things wouldn't go on sale, and then people would complain. They're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, there it is."
There you go.
It's, like,
it's half off.
the dishwasher games. That have
right.
Like I think the developer complaining, it's like, I don't know why we're not on sale, and it's they put them on sale for like 99 cents each. Or something.
Well, I think there were people that were trying to complete their collections or whatever.
I mean, I
sure
looked at it, but I have everything.
Yeah,
I have everything I want.
I was actually shocked at how many Xbox 360 games are in my library.
Well, because I was only looking at the digital only stuff.
Yeah,
because that's the only stuff that's really going away.
Yeah.
And I had either I had it or everything I wanted, or it was available on further platforms down the line.
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff did not stop there. Obviously, you know.
Yeah, Xbox 360 always blows my mind when I go back and look at stuff like this because it was a console that straddled the standard definition and the 720p line. So, like, you have promotional videos like this that were shot at standard definition, but meanwhile, the console was displaying stuff at 720p. It was like this whole weird transitionary period. Like, I remember we, at Game Trailers, we were doing HD 720p stuff like 2 years before MTV ever did 720p. And they were coming to us, asking us, like, what cameras should we buy? Like, what gear should we get for our studios? Like, how should we set up our edit bays? Like, it was funny. We're like this little digital startup, and you have all the bigwigs coming to talk to us about how to handle the HD transition. And it's just, that's kind of what Xbox 360 was all about. Like, you know, eventually...
Well, I don't know. According to Sony at the time, the HD era begins when we say it.
Right. I forgot about that. I have fond memories of the Xbox 360. A lot of fond memories. It was, you know, one of the best parts of my career as far as the people I was working with and the stuff that we were doing and all that. It was great. The era of it coming into HD, me getting my first ever HD Panasonic Plasma TV so I could play the games in 720p, just all of it. I just have very great memories of that entire era of gaming. And so it's a little sad and a little bit of a red flag to see that they just stopped selling any games for it. It definitely makes me feel a little bit old. And watching this in standard definition makes me feel old too. But we were part of it, man. That whole transition from 640 by 480p into 720p.
I wasn't even 30 yet.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But the Xbox 360 was a great console, even with the red ring. I was fortunate. My console didn't red ring until way after everybody else's, even though I was giving it more use than probably anyone. But then I was playing a lot of games on debug units then, too. Like, I don't have a lot of achievements from the Xbox 360 era because I wasn't earning them on my retail hardware.
I was very adamant about that.
Oh, you were?
I held out for things to work on the normal one.
Yeah, I didn't. I played almost every game on a debug, so I lost just tens of thousands of achievement points.
I mean, my achievement total is somewhere in like the 250,000 somewhere range,
insane.
And like almost all of that is from that era. I haven't paid attention to achievements basically since the Xbox One came out.
Yeah, I think mine is only like 40,000 or something like that. That's insane, dude. 200,000. That's
something
crazy.
Or maybe it's 180.
Wow.
I can't remember. It's in there.
I mean, I probably would have been there if I had played all those games on my retail unit, but I didn't, unfortunately. But that's a worthy trade-off to be able to play all those games early. That's the way I looked at it.
They never should have left the blades.
Yeah, I know. I saw that clip and I'm like, the blades. And then like last week they released like a splash screen of the blades, and it was a total disappointment. Like they should have released like a UI that you could use for the blades, but instead it was like this facsimile thing that just didn't work and blah blah blah. So anyway, the Xbox 360 era.
Segue. Look at that.
Yeah.
It sure was 2005.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, the Xbox 360 era is officially over. I hope you guys managed to snag any games that you wanted. Again, we tried to remind you guys several times on the site. I think the first thing we curated was like from a month and a half ago, and then from 2 weeks ago, and then like the day before. We gave you one last warning, like go get this stuff now or forever hold your peace. So it's over now. There's no way to go and get that stuff, but I hope you guys have fond memories of the Xbox 360 era just like Matt and I do. It was a great era. To me, it was one of the most transformative eras of console gaming because, again,
It was online console gaming coming into its own.
Yeah, and just like, high-res visuals. Like, the artists have to step up their game. They have to make textures that are like 20 times the size of the textures that they've always made. They have to figure out how to make it work. Back then, libraries and Unreal Engine and middleware weren't that great. Like, most developers were still building their own engines. Like, it was completely different now then than it is now. So, very interesting to look back on that era and all the different changes. Link So Good says the dashboard runs a lot better now. I don't know what you mean by that. You mean like the Xbox like Series X runs better than the 360? I remember that. I mean, it's been a long time, but I remember the 360 was just like snap, 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 snap. Like the blades.
The original
were just
one was, yeah. And then the updated interface was much slower.
Yeah, it was slower. Yeah, and then I compare Xbox Series to like Switch, and Switch is so sluggish. Like using the Switch eShop is a joke. How could they have not improved that after all this time? It is so abysmal. The experience.
There's only so much you can do, I guess.
I
with
guess
the hardware you're working with.
Maybe.
My bigger complaint about the eShop is that it's just porn everywhere. Like, I'm like, where are the games?
You can't find the stuff you want.
It's like mobile ports of like shit. Like, why is half everything named hentai? What the hell? Like, I remember when this company wouldn't allow crucifixes to be in their fucking games, and all of a sudden I can buy hot MILF mommy milkers fucking 2. Like,
yeah. I mean, PlayStation.
And they don't even have 1 on the store. Like, what the hell is that? I'm like, how am I going to know what's happening if I haven't played the first one?
The PlayStation store is like that too. Like we curate
the
every day.
shovelware is out of control on these stores.
It really is bad. Like we curate, and so we get a feed of PlayStation's YouTube channel coming into our admin where we look at it and like, do we want to add this to the site or not? And half of the content every day from PlayStation's YouTube channel is complete trash. They're just games that are just awful, like you said, just shovelware, like crazy anime porn-ish games, just garbage. So it's not just Nintendo that's doing that. The Retro Modern Gamer says, does Prawn have the Nintendo seal of approval? Now it appears to have it,
Apparently.
Yes. It didn't used to, but now it appears to have gotten the seal of approval. So anyway, rest in peace, Xbox 360.
It's no Legend of Black Tiger.
That's right, I forgot about that one. That was another one for sure. Next up, Matt, we have some good news about PlayStation VR 2. We mentioned a couple weeks ago that it is coming to PC. You'll have to buy a $60 dongle attachment to make it work on PC, but it is coming to Steam here in the very near future. Last week, they put it on sale for I think it was like $150 off in Europe. This week, right now, in the United States, everywhere, at every retailer and on PlayStation's own official store, PlayStation VR 2 is $200 off right now. You can buy it for $350. It's still $550, by the way.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I was going to say that's still too much.
It's $350 right now. Matt, a report this morning said that PlayStation has sold more PlayStation VR 2 in the last 3 days than it sold all year long. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
I mean, it's pretty expected,
I mean, it shows you how much pricing matters.
Right, but it also shows you how important it is not to give you any actual numbers. Like they said that sales were up 20,000 or 2,000%.
Which means you went from selling 3 units to 300.
Right.
Which is probably accurate.
Like the percentage doesn't tell you anything.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. But it does appear to have at least given it a shot in the arm.
If I sold one thing per day for all year and then one day I sold 10, that's 1,000%.
Yeah, it is. That's true.
Increase in sales.
And you may be right. That may be what we're looking at here. It went from selling like 2,000 units the whole year to now it's sold like 15,000 units in a few days or whatever. But the bottom line here, and the reason we're mentioning this, we're not here to cheerlead on PlayStation VR 2, although I like to see pretty much every product succeed if it's possible. It's not, but I'd like to see it. But why we're telling you this is because if you've been interested in PlayStation VR 2 all this time and you were waiting for a price drop, now is the time to pull the trigger.
Don't. Because it sucks.
Yeah. I mean,
what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have not recommended it here. But here's the thing, Matt. It is about to be compatible with PC. And there's way more PC.
I would hope most of these sales are PC people preparing for the adapter.
Yeah. That's what I would think. Are all PC VR games going to work on PlayStation VR too? It feels like they need
not necessarily.
Yeah, it feels like there need to be specific programming for that.
Not really.
No,
but especially because a lot of the tricks of the PSVR 2 aren't really used by PC VR games. Like foveated the eye tracking thing, really rare. On PC VR.
So you just have to ignore it, I guess, or your code already ignores it because you never programmed for it in the first place.
It's basically just a monitor. At this point.
Yeah.
And the adapter will probably take care of some of that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know what's in that adapter. They haven't really gone into a lot of details on the tech behind it. But if you are somebody who has wanted to buy PlayStation VR 2, now's the time to do it. I know there may only be 5 of you out there, but this is the time. And again, it's available everywhere. It's available at all the local retailers. You can buy it from PlayStation.com for $350. Pretty much anywhere you could buy it normally, you can get it for that cheaper price. It's not just like an exclusive on PlayStation.com or whatever.
More importantly, that PDP guitar thing is in stock again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on Amazon it was a couple days ago.
And it's probably out of stock already.
No, it was still in stock for Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Last I checked. I think PlayStation sold out. But all my Rock Band stuff is on Xbox, so I was probably going to get it for that anyway.
Yeah. So you're going to play it?
I might.
What is it compatible with like all Rock Band stuff?
Compatible with Rock Band 4.
Is it?
It's the only thing that's on. It's only Rock Band 4 is compatible with current stuff.
But it doesn't. But it also they released it for Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it will work with Rock Band still.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
It literally says Rock Band 4 in the description of the.
Oh, it does. Okay, that's good.
It has an analog stick under the head.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. So you can play.
Yeah.
Like you move a guy around.
Yeah.
Fortnite.
That's cool. Yeah. So if you're someone who loved Rock Band like we used to. Like, we used to love Rock Band, man. We had Rock Band parties, like, all the freaking time.
All the parties were Rock Band parties.
Every party turned into a Rock Band party. Yep. You get there, you'd have a couple drinks, and everyone would hang out for a little bit, and everyone like, you want to play Rock Band? Yep. And then the night would just go on.
Got to the point where it would just be set up when you got
there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would leave it set up in my living room. Yeah. For weeks and weeks, I just leave it set up there, because you just never knew when people were going to come by and going to want to play. I mean, it was a lot different, too, when you were younger and people, like, came to each other's houses. Like, that is the one thing I hate about getting older is, like, you just don't have people, like, stopping by like they used to. Like, people just don't, like, just hang out. Like, I don't get calls from people that are like, hey, well, I'm going to come over and let's play some Call of Duty. Like, that stuff just doesn't happen once you get to a certain age, and I definitely miss it. Like, I wish that was still a part of my life. But it's just not. People grow up, they have kids, and they got a mortgage, and they're not coming over to play Call of Duty anymore, unfortunately. But anyway, again, if you're interested in PlayStation VR 2, now is the time. If you're talking about striking while the iron's hot, the iron is piping hot right now. Vincent says it has to be Rock Band 4 stuff, so not your old PS2 controllers. Yeah, I kind of figured that. Silkshank says, without Rock Band's pro drums, I'd never know how to play real drums. Rock Band taught me how to play drums. Like, I was in bands my entire life, and I would get, like, when we stopped practicing, I'd always jump on our drummer's kit, and I'd fiddle around for a little bit. I could never play with my hands and my feet at the same time. And I was in bands for years. I never got over the hump. Rock Band did it for me. I learned how to play with my hands and my feet at the same time with Rock Band. Like, if anybody asked me, like, how should I learn how to play the drums? I'd tell them to play Rock Band.
Yeah, well, I remember, like, because Pereira was very skeptical about a lot of stuff like that, but
well, he was a great drummer.
He's a very good drummer, and so like when we were all playing Rock Band, he's like, "All right, let me see what this stupid game is," and he turned, put it on to expert, and he's like, "Oh, this is just playing drums."
Yeah,
and then he loved it.
Yeah,
like, I remember that, like, because like a lot of people, and even like you remember Fahey, I think was the first person to play Guitar Hero on the team. Like, because they came.
He's a big guitarist. Yeah,
he's a big guitarist, and they gave it to, like, Carson, I think, gave it to him to do the review, because like he did a lot of the funny live action stuff anyway, and so he was like, he plugged it in, he's like, I don't know, because Fahey wasn't a gamer, he wasn't really into he's like, I don't know what this is, what the fuck is this bullshit, and he like loaded it, and like 20 minutes later we're looking over, like, are you still playing that guitar game? He's like, it's really fun. He's like, it's not like playing guitar, but it's fun.
It's fun.
And so and that was like, everyone came over to try it, and that was the beginning of all that.
The good old days. Those were good.
I'm like,
old
man,
days.
if you could win Mark Fahey over,
exactly,
with a fake ass plastic guitar, you got something special.
Yeah,
and sure enough, they did.
Yep, Rock Band definitely taught me how to play drums, and I can still play drums. I can still hop down on a kit, and I can play a beat with my hands and my feet still.
Rock Band introduced me to a lot of classic rock. Like, for me, because like my parents didn't listen to that. Like my dad hated.
So you missed that whole era.
My dad hated everything after the Beatles.
No.
Including the Beatles. Anything after 1963 wasn't real rock and roll to him.
Even though it's 63, rock had only existed for what, like 11 years or something?
Yeah, I mean, to him it was Elvis and all that 50s
Yeah.
stuff, you know, like, I mean, yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I had no real 60s stuff, 70s stuff. My mom listened to, like, you know, much easier, you know, light rock. That's not even, like a lot of Anne Murray, some Barry Manilow.
Well, it's like my wife. She was raised in a Christian family and went to a Christian private school for elementary school. And so she is just a blank on the 80s.
Wow.
She doesn't know any of the TV shows from the 80s. She doesn't know any of the music from the 80s. She likes it now, and she loves it, and she knows the songs because now she's an adult, has heard it a bunch. But, like, she doesn't remember. Like, I talk about TV shows, and she's like, Wow. It's pretty crazy.
That's a hard gap for me to cross.
Yeah.
It's like sorry, that's like my whole personality.
Yeah.
So,
And it's just a blank for her. Yeah.
half the things I say are actual quotes from 80s and 90s movies, so you're going to be lost a fair amount.
Yep, it's funny. So anyway, that's the latest on PlayStation VR 2. If you've been waiting to buy it, now is the time to buy it. Absolutely.
But
probably don't.
Yeah, let's not.
Probably still
let's not
don't
go
buy
crazy.
it. Yep. Next up, last week we reviewed College Football 25. I talked about how I thought people were overrating it, but it's still a solid game. Well, right after we did that, the first gameplay trailer for the new Madden NFL 25 came out, and I was very curious to have a look at this to see what kind of changes they were going to make after College Football 25. I had high expectations for Madden 25 because I had just played college football and it did a bunch of things that last year's Madden did not do well. And don't forget, last year's Madden reviewed horribly. In fact, it is reviewed poorly for the last 4 years straight. It has got a 7 or lower 4 years in a row Metacritic score. So they need to do something about Madden. It still sells. It is still one of the top 5 selling games every year. I mean, let's just be honest. People who are buying Madden are not exactly video game aficionados. So they're just going to buy it because it has the new rosters and like.
What else are you going to play?
Right. Yeah, and because they have the exclusive. And this year there's a bunch of new rules. Like there's a brand new kickoff that's happening in the NFL this year.
Every year I get people that, like, you know, the casual game people who are like ask me stuff like hey, it's, you know, right around the time the NFL season starts, they're like, hey, is there any football games that are not Madden that I could get? And it's just like, no. Like
there's arcade ones now.
I pointed out that one arcade one you talked about last year. I can't remember what it was called.
I don't remember it either.
You remember what I'm talking about, though? Like, it had the Players Association, but didn't have the NFL.
Didn't have the NFL license.
And I was like, yes, this, and they looked at it and they're like, eh. And I'm just like, yeah, I know.
Yep. Well, they finally put out a gameplay trailer for the new Madden this week, and I struggle to see anything new about it other than the new kickoff rules. Mm-hmm. The crazy part is that Madden is going to let you experience the new kickoff play and kickoff rules before the real NFL. I mean, that's the funny part about it. Like, I saw, like, the training camps just started in the NFL this week, and I was watching, like, NFL Network the other day, and they were talking to a head coach of an NFL team, and he said that they have been asking EA for early code of Madden so that they can really look at how the new kickoff play is going to work.
Wow.
Because they're like, we have no reference for it at all.
I think Madden looks the best in indoor lit arenas.
Yeah, instead of being outside.
Yeah, the outsides. I mean, outside doesn't look bad, but like the indoor arenas with all the shadows from all the different lights, that's the thing that tricks my eye for a split second.
I mean, I think College Football 25 looks better than this.
I think so. Yeah.
The other thing too is that Madden is coming out for last gen consoles this year. College Football 25 did not. It was new gen only, PS5 and Xbox Series. This is still going to come out for PS4 and Xbox One. I don't know how many more years they're going to keep doing that, but it feels like the sports games are dragging their feet way more than everybody else. But yeah, this is still coming out on last-gen consoles. And that's why I think it doesn't look as good as College Football 25. And you're seeing all, this is all the new stuff. Catching control. Okay, I've been tapping the Y button or the triangle button playing Madden for literally 20 years. There's nothing changed. It's like they've just reached the law of diminishing returns with this franchise where there's just nothing much else to change or tweak, nothing major.
Yeah, the only thing left is like really just like perfecting the interactions between the bodies.
The players,
really.
yeah,
like,
the player
and
bodies.
I thought about that playing Kunitsugami or whatever that was. It's Kunitsugami.
Path of the Goddess.
One of the, I think everyone talks about fidelity and better visual. I think the next weird detail-y thing to focus on in graphics should be.
What?
Clothing collision. Things like not having capes and sleeves and shit clip through not having like swords and scabbards clip through arms, not having like that stuff, like having like clothing impact other characters' clothing properly as you rub up against the people. Like I think that's your next step.
That's a big step too.
It is.
That's going to take a lot of work.
That's a very expensive, processing wise, it's a very expensive thing to do. But I think it's one of the only places left.
Yeah.
That you look at and you're like, that's still happening.
And look, I'm not saying like if I were developing Madden that I would have better ideas. I'm not saying that at all. Like I've been playing Madden for like decades and I don't have much of a better idea of what I would do with the game to make it better. So it's not like I'm saying I could do it, let me do it. It's just when you make something for so long, it feels like the only significant changes come from when the actual sport changes, not from the video game. So like kickoffs this year. So I can't say I'm all that excited about Madden, and I can't say I've been excited about Madden for like a half decade now. This generation has really been poor for Madden. It usually starts slow on a new generation of consoles, but the funny part was, Matt, this generation, they had all the modes there the first year. It used to be like a new generation of consoles, like that first game would only have the season mode. It wouldn't have the franchise mode. And then the second year, you get the franchise mode. Now they have all the modes there because they got to have Ultimate Team to make money off of, but it doesn't feel like there's significant changes other places anymore. So
well, what are they going to change?
Right? Yeah, I don't know. Like it's like I've played college football. And like I found a bunch of bugs and weird things where like you collide with somebody and a player would like freak out, the physics would just bug out, and player would do something weird. Or there's still moments where like if you zoomed in on the offensive line, like the linemen were playing patty cake and they weren't actually touching each other. Like there's still stuff like that to fix. Like I think the blocking is something that could still be improved vastly in pretty much every football game, because it just feels like, again, like playing college football even, like I noticed that like if you had a bad quarterback, it wasn't like that he was subtly bad. Like he'd just barely overthrow a receiver, or he was just a little bit off on a crossing route. Like every once in a while you'd pass the ball and he'd just throw it into the ground. Because it's like, okay, he has a passer rating of whatever we gave him. We can't let him complete this pass. No matter how open the guy is, no matter how good this quarterback is at throwing that crossing route, he's not going to throw it good this time because his completion percentage says he cannot complete this pass. Stuff like that can be fixed, but again, that's very subtle stuff that a lot of people wouldn't even notice if they did change it. So I do feel like we're kind of stuck with this middling sports franchises right now. Like even NBA 2K is really kind of plateaued. Like it just is really struggling to find new features or meaningful additions or changes to get non-hardcore fans back into it. So all I'm saying is I wouldn't get too excited about Madden. It is coming here in a couple weeks, like August 15th or whatever, so it's only a couple weeks away from release. And we will talk about it briefly here on GameFace, but I would not get my hopes up if you're a big NFL fan. Also, by the way, Eric Cartmenas, we need to figure out a new bet for this season. Like, what's your favorite team? And maybe we can make a bet for your favorite team. I want to give you a chance to win back the money that I won from you last year. I think that's just a gentlemanly thing to do. So if you come up with a good bet, let's make it, and we'll follow it throughout the whole NFL season like we did last year with the Steelers. I think it was, 9 wins the Steelers needed for me to win the bet last year, and they ended up with 10 or something. So if you can think of any other bet and you want to do it, I'm more than willing to give you a chance to try to win your money back that I won last year. So I think that's just a gentlemanly thing to do. Next up, Matt, this is maybe the most crushing thing that I've seen this week. Previews went up this morning for Star Wars Outlaws. Did you get a chance to watch or read any of them?
Yeah, I saw some of them.
Not very flattering. I was actually surprised that how negative some outlets were in the previews, and they didn't use the usual caveat of like, well, this is preview code and it's not a finished product and they can fix it. Like they were just like, this game feels old. That seemed to be the most common criticism that people leveled against it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that means though.
Yeah,
like it's like what, it feels like a Ubisoft open world game.
They said it doesn't actually. They said it feels like an old open world game before Ubisoft evolved it into what it is now.
Yeah, I still don't really know what that means.
I don't either.
Like, honestly. I expect it to be an open Star Wars game where you ride from point to point and shoot things when you get there. And as long as it is that, I'm going to be pretty much okay with it.
I think the other thing that I was kind of surprised about is that people described it as a stealth game instead of an action game.
I mean, it definitely looked like the footage that we've seen so far. Like, it feels like if you don't at least start in stealth, you're gonna get overwhelmed because clumsy and random. Those are the blasters.
Yeah.
And you don't really have a lot of defense on hand.
Nope.
I do, which at least confirms that in that last batch of footage they put out, everybody not reacting to the explosions and the other guys getting killed was just part of that demo, because apparently they will just fucking swarm you on this. So anyone complaining about that, there you go.
Tons of new footage went out today too. If you go to SIFTD right now, there's probably an hour and a half of new footage of this game curated there if you want to watch it.
Yeah, I don't really need to see any
I'm
more
good.
of it.
Like the
I'm
game's
fine with it.
like 3 weeks away. I scrubbed through it so I knew what to write in the blurb, so I knew what was in the footage, but I didn't really watch any of it. I'm kind of at the point now where it's like I've seen enough. I just want to play the game. But yeah, I mean, I was unpleasantly surprised by most of the previews today.
Yeah, I honestly don't really care what preview people.
You're not
have to say
concerned
about
at
it.
all?
No, I'm gonna like this game. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like I don't, it may not go well for my fantasy team if everybody suddenly decides they don't like the Star Wars game. But
I mean,
whatever.
you care more about enjoying the Star Wars game than you're winning your fantasy league.
Yeah.
I do. I would care.
None of this looks revolutionary, but none of it looks bad to me either.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it looks bad, like the fact that she just clips through the creatures on the floor when she's walking up to that bar. She just sort of walks through them. That's weird. So in that regard, I get what they mean.
Does it feel like the game maybe was a little bit, and I hate to say this, rushed?
No.
No?
It just feels unambitious in some ways. And I think part of that probably comes from, and I'm speaking from experience, having had to work with Lucasfilm on a couple of things, you can only get so much done and
go through all their checks
get through
and
the approval
balances
process on this stuff.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of hamstrung by that. And you'd hope it would be an easier process for a major international game developer working on a multi-million-dollar project, but I assure you it is not.
Yeah.
And I see a little bit of that in what the previews are saying, maybe. But I don't know. Like you gonna let me ride around on a speeder bike and shoot stormtroopers and fly up into space and go to another planet through hyperspace? Like, I'm not gonna be too unhappy.
I just can't fathom how Ubisoft would drop the ball on this game.
I don't think they are dropping the ball on the game.
It's hard for me to understand how that would be.
I think it's just kind of a game.
It feels like maybe their expectations were not what was in the game, and therefore they were disappointed. Maybe they had an idea of what they thought the game was going to be, and then it wasn't. It
maybe feels like there's some I don't know what. Like, it's like, okay, what did you want then?
Maybe a run and gun, more action oriented.
Sorta, game. I guess. I mean, I would imagine knowing Ubisoft games at the very least, I imagine it becomes more of one as you become more powerful.
You'd think.
Like, a lot of these abilities that you're leveling up in this thing sound like things that will let you do that more early on. It's even true in these open world Assassin's Creed games. It's like early on, because I actually installed, because I had never seen Odyssey on my PC before, so I'm like, but you know what, I'm going to install that and look at it. And I had forgotten, having played Odyssey for 180 some hours, because Cassandra was basically invincible the last 100 hours of that game, right? I forgot that is not true. Early on, you have got to play it like Assassin's Creed. And then after a while, you level some things up. You get the bonus on the spear that lets you fall from any height and not take any damage. Like, it becomes you basically become literally a demigod.
Invincible, yeah.
But early on, you got to actually play the game. Yeah. And so maybe some of that's in here. That does seem to be part of their design philosophy.
Is that these previews were all based upon like the first 4 hours of the game. To your point,
one of the things I was surprised by, because that early part leaked. The part of it leaked.
I didn't get to watch it before it was taken down.
I watched it. I watched most. Well, I didn't watch all of it because I thought it was boring. Because I'm like, you know what? I don't care about this until I'm playing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lot of cutscenes about her waking up and, oh, we got to go get our stuff back, kind of thing. I was like, what happened, kind of thing. I'm like, I don't care what happened until what I'm gonna do is being saved on my fucking PC.
Yeah.
So it seems like it does start pretty slow. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. It's Star Wars. It's a form of Star Wars I've never played before because it's they've never done an open world thing before. It's set in an era I'm interested in. It does a lot of things I like. It has the space stuff. It has the shooting stuff.
People seem positive on the space stuff, by the way. That was one thing in the previews everyone seemed to like.
Well, everybody already experienced Starfield.
Right.
Hunting
the bar's
that.
low.
So it's like, oh, wow, that's fun, actually. Okay, right. Space. We like space things. We forgot.
Sanuku is saying this is Ubisoft's Mass Effect Andromeda moment.
So really good gameplay with a bad story.
Yeah, or like a game that non-fans may like, but fans probably won't like. That's what I think of Andromeda.
I don't think that sentence even means anything with Star Wars anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, there's not. It's just that contingent is going to hate everything that's made now from Star Wars, no matter what. Just like I don't think the Acolyte was a flawless show. It has a lot of problems, and it's a generally very messy show. But you can't talk about it like that with anyone who actually is yelling about how much they hated it, because they don't hate it for any of that. They hate it because they were told to by a YouTuber. Generally,
right.
You know, it's like it's just nonsense.
It's a weird world we're living in. It really is. Henry Pumpkins, thank you for Twitch Prime, by the way. Vincent says the preview skipped the intro, though. It's still part of the game, and then there was another demo at a later point. Yeah, it's confusing to figure out what portions they played and whether there was an opening cinematic or not. Yeah, they were a little ambiguous about that.
I honestly don't care what a 27-year-old kid thinks about this game.
Yeah.
It gets mostly who's writing these previews.
No, you're right.
Like I can make my own decisions about whether I like the Star Wars.
Because all the people our age have been fired.
Yeah,
because they were making more than 30 grand a year.
Too much to do that now. So
they needed to make more than 30 grand a year in California. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that
Link So Good says this reminds me of the Mad Max game, which I just played through again for the third time.
People really like that game.
Mad Max is great.
Yeah, a lot of people really like it.
It does not. It's one of the most underrated games of its generation, I think.
Yeah,
it's still good.
Look, this hasn't dampened my enthusiasm for this game one iota. Honestly, I just thought it was interesting that it was kind of unanimous. Like I struggled to find a preview where someone was like, "This is hot. Damn, this is like game of the year material." Like you wait.
I mean, I never expected it to be. Yeah, frankly, because like it's just doing the Ubi formula to some degree with Star Wars, and that's all I expect it to really be. I don't know what you expect this to be, if you're in.
Well, look, Matt, I've said this a million times. Expectations should not come into play at all when you're reviewing a game. Like you should just review the game. Yeah, The game is good. I don't care what you thought or you expected before you played this game. Like, to your point, you're some 27-year-old kid I don't even know. Why do I want you to base your review upon what you expected? Just tell me what's in the damn game and whether it's handled well or not.
Like, as Roger Ebert used to say, the important thing isn't what a movie's about, it's how it's about it. And I think that's applicable to games, too. It's like... It's like, okay, well, you can't get mad at Star Wars Outlaws because it doesn't have lightsaber combat in it, or it doesn't have like 10-player online co-op, or something. Right. It's not trying to do. That's not what it's doing. You know, and you can judge it on on whether it's like is it primarily a stealth game? How well does it do that? Is it annoying? Is it like The Division where you can try to play it like that, but after like 3 guys in, you're gonna get spotted by somebody. You have to fucking
shoot him anyway.
And is the gunplay good? Because like that's one of the things I've worried about is a lot of the gunplay stuff hasn't looked very good in some of the footage. Yeah. But a lot of that is because like
nobody mentioned that in the previews.
Right. That's what I was interested in. And in the 10-minute clip they put out a couple weeks ago, that was because I can't tell if the gunplay looks subpar or if it's because they've got her blasters. Like, this looks fine to me. Yeah. But the blaster in that 10-minute preview was set to shoot 3 shots at once.
Yeah, like a burst fire. Almost like an M16.
Yeah, and it wasn't hitting where she was aiming. It was like one would hit and the others would go off. And I'm like, I know I'm never going to use that setting because I'm a precision shooter in games. Yeah. And like I want to be able to just headshot from however long I mean, this looks way more like what I mean.
The range on that blaster is pretty generous.
Yeah. And now you got an E11, which is the Stormtrooper blaster, so that's not going to be super accurate, but it's going to be powerful. Yeah. I don't know. That looks fine. Yeah. But like there's also the element of like, you know what? Like this looks way more interesting to me than the footage of her shooting up like a cantina, because I don't care about a bunch of, I don't know,
trash aliens.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care about shooting a bunch of Rhodians, but I do care about shooting a bunch of stormtroopers. Yeah, that's a different experience.
I mean, I also like that she escaped from the fight and got in her ship, and she takes off on the ship. That's what I'm all about with this game.
Yeah, well, you can't beat the Empire single-handedly.
Yeah, so I would take those previews that you're seeing on Sifted right now with a grain of salt. Again, keep in mind where they're coming from and all that sort of thing, and maybe there might be some expectations that are involved there. The game's only a few weeks away.
Yeah.
At this point, we've waited all this time. Let's try to just sort of wipe the slate clean and enjoy this game for what it is when we finally get to play it.
Yeah, and Silk Snake said, I wish it says, I wish it had sabers and force users, but I'm not going to rage that it doesn't. Yeah, like, would I rather this was a Jedi open world? Absolutely.
Yeah,
like Jedi.
I think most people would. Yeah.
I mean, like I've said before, the smuggler sort of underworld, like scum and villainy element of Star Wars is the least interesting part of Star Wars to me.
And for some reason, it is a part of Star Wars. It's like
well, because it's a Western.
Yeah,
like it's always been. Han Solo's a gunslinger. Look at him. He's a Western. All
he even looks like him. Yeah,
like that's always been part of it.
Yeah,
like, it was hot rods and gunslingers and samurai was what Star Wars always was. That's the baseline of Star Wars, and it's important to mix them all. I think one of the problems with the prequels is it loses the Western aspect.
It does kind of.
It doesn't have it doesn't have a Han Solo. It doesn't have an everyman. It doesn't have that guy standing, because like the thing that people forget because it's so far removed now because it's so old. Han Solo is just like a man from the 70s.
Pretty much.
Like he is at the time. It
womanizer.
Was like, at the time he's just a guy from that time period,
era,
in this crazy fucking space opera.
He's got transported,
and he's the guy who stands there and is like, I mean, now if you made that nowadays, he'd be the guy being like, well, that happened,
right?
He'd be the one like pointing out how ridiculous Otto Octavius's name is in the Spider-Man movie and stuff, right? Yeah. And like boring conversation anyway, like all that stuff is him. Like he was the character that made it okay to like this ridiculous thing as it was happening. It was like, it's like, oh, he thinks this is silly too. He thinks the Force doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what Obi-Wan's talking about, that scene.
Yeah, he was us
he's like,
in the film.
Yeah, he's you. He's the character that lets you into the world, basically.
Yeah.
And that's how it works, because like when he accepts this guy in a giant Wookiee costume as real and as his buddy, you accept it. Yeah. Because that's the character does.
Yeah, yeah.
So like there's an element when you center Star Wars on that aspect, on the Han Solo idea, on the smuggler, scum, and villainy idea, you're losing part of what makes Star Wars, and that's why it feels a little hollow in that regard, in terms of capturing what you love about Star Wars, and I understand that. In fact, and like that's one of the reasons that I am interested in this game. Beyond that is just like, while it's not a corner of the setting I'm interested in terms of tone. I do love any glimpse you get of what it's like to live in that horrible universe.
It really is horrible.
And like there's an aspect of this, like what it would be like to be someone who owns their own ship and flies around and goes to do these different things. I love walking around the cantina in Jedi Survivor, like talking to people, like these regular people in this universe, like what it's like to be a person. I love the scene in Force Awakens where she makes bread out of the weird little thing.
Yeah.
Like anything like that is fascinating and really appealing to me.
It takes a lot of thought. Yeah.
But like there is an element here where like you are taking a slice of Star Wars that doesn't really generally work on its own and hoping it holds its own, and that's a very tough balancing act. Yeah. And I'm very interested to see if they pull it off.
I'm still really excited for this game. I don't.
It remains my most I don't see another game this year being more anticipated by. I mean, maybe I'll hate it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I could hate it too. But as of right now,
but there's nothing else down the line to the end of the year where I'm more excited to play it.
Me too. I'm all geeked up for it. So I hope you guys are too. I wouldn't let these lukewarm, some shade a little negative previews deter you. I would say also, just keep an open mind.
I don't know what is that like the trend now. We're gonna review all the big, since Suicide Squad got a lot.
We're gonna
of
review
clicks,
the games
we're gonna
before
review,
the review.
We're gonna do the previews with a little bit of skepticism and a little bit of snark. Kind of.
I mean, look, I feel like that definitely hurt Suicide Squad. Like the game, the game wasn't a Game of the Year contender, but like it was basically trash before it was ever released. And you're right, that never used to happen.
No, you could feel the knives sharpening on the previews for Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And look, I've been ripping that game a new one since they first showed it. I'm not.
But it wasn't because you thought the game itself was crap. You didn't like the whole concept behind it. It didn't matter how it was executed. You didn't like the base core concept of the game, and that's fair.
And I think if they had executed it well, I would have admitted it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they did.
Yeah. I mean, it was a
and more
competent,
it was okay
cooperative shooter. I mean, that's all it was.
But it was like you need more than that after we waited 9 years for a new Rockstar.
Well, it's like we just talked about the First Descendant. You get it for free now.
Yeah.
Competent, cooperative third-person shooters are free now.
And more as you look at what they're doing moving forward with the season stuff, it's like they have no plan. There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there.
I can't believe they're still going forward with the next season. Like, I guess the content's done. Why not? They'll make $10 off of it. I don't know.
At some point, you think you got to cut bait.
It feels like, because if you talk to Pachter about budgets for games, his whole budget for a game is how many employees do you have? What are you paying them?
Right.
That's the whole budget for game development. That's the equipment's there already. You got the gear. You got the location. It's how much are you spending on labor?
Well, it's like my friend.
And they're still spending labor on
like my friend
Suicide Squad.
Who's worked on forever. He worked on Assassin's Creed. So all this, he says he's like, to make a game, you need like this many, like 2 producers and a creative director and an art director and like 2 programmers. The difference between a scrappy one group, one room indie game and a AAA phenomenon like giant, big budget like AAA release is 1,000 artists.
Yeah, it's all artists. It's art. Yeah, textures and all that stuff.
And 1,000 artists costs a lot of money to hire.
They do $100,000 a piece generally.
Yeah.
So.
For years.
They're still they're still spending money on those people for Suicide Squad.
How did it cost that many millions of dollars? Because they were paying so many artists and animators. You think Spider-Man doesn't get made out of nothing.
Yeah,
it takes hundreds and thousands of these people.
It feels like it's time to cut bait on Suicide Squad.
I would think so.
I think this season should be the last. Like, let's just move on. Get your talented people working on the next Batman game that you should have made in the first damn place.
I mean, you had the peak of the new season premiere stuff on Steam was in the 1,000 range.
600 players they had.
Terrible.
Oh, it's so.
And I know it's on other, probably was on, Epic and but it's just like what?
Yeah,
what?
It's insane, dude. It really is. Next,
you gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
I feel like we've been a little bit negative in this episode of GameFace so far. So this is a positive story, at least I think it is. They just showed a brand new controller, a new DualSense controller for Astro, which, cool. It's a cool looking controller and everything. But Matt, there appears to be a screen on the controller. Here's the thing. Nobody's able to tell me if this is real, if there's really a screen on this controller. If you look at the trailer and the information that PlayStation has released for this, doesn't say what the eyes are. But like a lot of the outlets and journalists have just assumed that, there's blinking eyes on the touchpad on this screen. But there's no official word from PlayStation about that at all. Like, dude, if there's really blinking stuff on this pad, I'm buying that controller. If there's not, I'm not.
if there is, you're not going to get one because it's going to sell it in 5 seconds.
And it is limited edition as well. It goes on sale like September 3rd or something like that, which I'm guessing is right around the time that the actual game comes out.
Yeah, the game comes out that same week.
Yeah. I don't think it is real, Matt. I don't think it really has the eyes on it.
It just looks like a cute thing they added.
It looks like it's CG in this commercial. But again, PlayStation, if you look at the description on YouTube, doesn't say anything about it, but you read the previews that journalists wrote, and or
maybe it's like printed on there, and it doesn't blink. You know what I mean?
That would be weird, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, but it says not actual controller.
Is that what it says?
There's text right down there at the
Bring it
beginning.
back. Yep, dramatization, not actual controller, right there.
I mean, you might think that that's referring to the fact that
There's a bunch
CG
of robots
are
on it.
but like, I don't know. I think that covers them for not having LEDs in the touchpad.
Yeah.
And at the end, you'll notice that the eyes stop moving and blinking when they just show the controller here.
You're right. You maybe just print it on there.
That's what I said.
It's just two circles printed on the pad.
Yeah, I think it's just pad printed on the
I think you're right. Yeah. Yep. All the reports for this were like, nope, there's blinking eyes on the touchpad.
I don't think that's... And I'm supposed to believe you thought that Star Wars game
right.
was very good?
There you go. Okay. There you go. But anyway, even if the eyes don't blink, it's a pretty cool controller. We just wanted to get it on your radar.
It's cute one way or the other. I mean, it'd be nice if it had... You should do the Deadpool thing and put Astrobot's butt on the end of it.
Like they did for the Xbox controllers. Yeah.
How weird that they only made like one of those.
They made one for Wolverine and one for Deadpool.
Yeah, but like it's just for a sweepstakes thing.
Yep, that's it.
It's like, you know what, guys, you might actually sell some of those if you made them.
They probably would. Yeah. Astrobot, one of the good stories of 2024.
Yeah.
They show the 3D platform, everyone falls in love with it. They show the cool controller.
I hope it's good.
I mean, I like the last Astrobot game.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. But I would say this, too. It ended right around when it should have.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, how long does this thing sustain? I mean, it looks adorable, but, like, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about a couple games here that sustain maybe a little bit longer than they should. Next up, something happened this week. There was a big Xbox console update that went out. And Digital Foundry discovered that if you have an Xbox One that has old firmware on it from 2019 or earlier, those consoles will no longer update. They literally will brick or are bricked. You can't do anything with them. And Digital Foundry's angle on this was like, this is showing you how the platform holders are starting to view their hardware as disposable. And they're not so concerned anymore that there's that long tail where you can have their old hardware and still have it work. It's like basically they're saying like, look, Microsoft didn't care enough about this to do its full due diligence.
Well, Big Smoke says they fixed it today.
Oh, they fixed it. I wonder how they fixed that.
I don't know. It's probably just a little tweak on something. I mean, I guess
because you can't touch what's on the hardware. How do you get it to work?
Well, I think it's just probably some tweak in how you update it. But like my guess would be they didn't have any Xbox Ones
lying around with
that old with unupdated firmware.
But I mean, that's your job, right? I mean,
you'd think
that should be on the list of things that you do before you put out a patch.
Well, and sometimes stuff like that you just don't know it's going to do that until it does it.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I'm sure my Xbox One X is probably past that. I mean, I replaced that with the Xbox Series X whenever that was 2020.
Yeah,
probably fun. But my original Xbox One, which I don't actually know if I still have, am I giving that to somebody? I don't know.
I gave mine away.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that, but that would have definitely only been 2017 because I replaced it with the One X at that point.
Right. The thing about Xbox is like there's really no reason to keep the old consoles.
Yeah.
Because everything is so backwards compatible. It's like I can plug an Xbox 360 game into my Series X and play it.
Erebus Jones says the issue was server side, not the hardware.
Oh, that's how they were able to fix it then. Interesting. So the console was making the call to the server, and the server was not answering the call, would be my guess.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. That's a huge mistake. Like, that is a huge oversight. And it does show that, at least at Microsoft, that they're not all that concerned about the people who have their old consoles, that it wasn't a part of the checklist before they released new firmware for hardware.
Well, it's like if you haven't updated your Xbox One in 2019,
4 years, 6 years, 5 years, yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah. This is an edge case of
it is, absolutely. But it does show that there was oversight there, that they didn't test it, basically.
Yeah, but they fixed it, so whatever.
Yeah, and it did only take a couple days for them to fix it. So, but it does kind of shine a light on the stuff that's going on behind the scenes with hardware as far as these platform holders are concerned, and how much they do or do not care about people who are using their legacy products.
I don't know if it's do not care so much as just like just didn't think of it. It's kind of ineptitude to some degree. I mean, look what happened with the CrowdStrike thing.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, no one intended to do that. It's not like they didn't care. It's just shit happens.
Xbox One, is it going to be known as Microsoft's lost console generation, or will that be the Series generation?
I don't know. Like, probably one is less successful, I would think.
I'm wondering which one is going to end up selling more ultimately, Xbox One or Xbox Series. Probably Series, but I wouldn't think by very much. Pachter thinks that they've only sold 18 million. I mean, Xbox One, last time I heard, was around that, roughly. But, man, they've gone 2 console generations of failure, basically, as far as hardware sales are concerned.
I mean, one is a more interesting story because it really is where they drop the ball. I mean, so in terms of being forgotten, probably the one wouldn't be, because one is the thing you got to talk about when you talk about blowing the 360 era, like all the goodwill and all the lead there.
Yep.
The Series X is probably gonna be the one that people played more, but like I feel like Xbox One is the one you're gonna talk about, 20 years from now when you talk about why Microsoft doesn't make consoles anymore.
Because it feels like the beginning of the end for Microsoft
it doesn't
making
really
consoles.
feel like it doesn't feel like a recoverable tailspin.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what you do to change that.
I don't think there's anything you can do at this point. It's water under the bridge now. So, yeah, the Xbox One, maybe it's an era that Microsoft would just hoping everybody forgets at this point. It's like, maybe if we just forget about the Xbox One, everybody else will forget about it as well, not thinking that there are experts out there like Digital Foundry. I mean, let's be honest, Matt. Digital Foundry found it. Microsoft did not. Which shows you which one is being more thorough when it tests stuff. this little offshoot of Eurogamer is more thorough testing Microsoft's hardware than Microsoft
Yeah, but
is.
didn't they test it because they were alerted to it?
Or I thought they were the ones that found it. Or no, someone on NeoGAF found it actually.
Yeah, they were alerted to it. And
Right,
they
you're right. That is what happened. Yeah, they actually didn't find it either. So just some user found it who maybe tried to fire up his old Xbox and was like, "Hey, wait a minute! Like this thing doesn't work anymore."
Like, where was that all this time?
Right. Yeah. So anyway,
what were you trying to play on the Xbone?
Yeah. At this point, like,
why'd you fire that up after 6 years?
I mean, to be honest, like some games still run pretty well on that old Xbone. Like,
yes.
I mean, look at Gears. That last Gears game for Xbox One looked amazing.
Sure,
I still don't know how they did it.
You can still play it on Series X.
Right. My guess is whoever found it doesn't want to buy a Series X for obvious reasons.
Just play it on PC.
Yeah.
And then why haven't they updated the console in half a decade?
Right. Well, because maybe they just found they wanted to play Hellblade or something. Something just came out.
Hellblade's on like every platform.
Hellblade?
Yeah.
Well, it's not on PlayStation, obviously, or Switch.
Well, Hellblade 1 is.
It's on PlayStation?
Yeah. Isn't it?
No.
Hellblade 1? Hellblade 1's on everything.
I don't think
Senua's
so.
Saga? Senua's Sacrifice or whatever?
No, it's still an Xbox exclusive, I thought.
Hellblade?
Yeah.
The first one?
Yeah.
They didn't own them then. Hellblade's on everything.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought Microsoft commissioned that game.
No, it's
for
on,
Ninja Theory to
Hellblade's on Switch and PS4 and everything. Yeah, I played Hellblade for the first time on PS4, I think.
I don't think so.
100%.
Really?
100%.
Chad will help us out. Millipintor says it was a PlayStation exclusive for a while.
Yeah, I played it on a PlayStation first.
Interesting. I don't remember that at all. Yeah, I don't remember that at all for some reason. Interesting.
Came to Xbox later, yeah.
I can't believe that game got a Switch port. That's insane. That is really insane that they got that thing to work on Switch. There's some voodoo for you.
I wonder if that's got to be cloud, right?
Maybe. I don't even remember it being on there, so you're asking the wrong guy. I totally thought it was a PC and Xbox exclusive.
They had a relationship with Sony because they were almost first party.
Heavenly Sword.
Heavenly Sword.
Yeah. Yeah, they were you're right. They were kind of a second party studio for PlayStation for a while. You're right. Yep. And what else we got here? That's actually it for housekeeping. We're running out of time. I have one more story, but we're just going to skip it for today. So we're about to get on with our reviews for this edition of GameFace. But before that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream.
Hey everyone, Steven's here from LS Cream. I hope that everybody's doing well. Guys, if you've heard Shane talk about it a little bit, about all the situation in Pennsylvania, getting LS Cream into that, basically you quickly understand that the liquor industry, it's kind of difficult to navigate in. Right now, we've been put in a situation where one of our distributors has basically kept all of our money. So that was not obviously part of the plan. We basically started an Indiegogo campaign to overcome that situation. Basically, you'll be able to we'll be able to ship you a bottle of LS Cream regardless of where you are. A lot of people in the comments during GameFace, they say about having LS Cream in Europe. So this is your chance to actually get a bottle of LS Cream using that campaign. So first of all, I want to thank every one of you that supported LS Cream since the beginning that we've been sponsoring GameFace, and for now. I really hope that you guys are gonna go and support us, and thank you so much. We are not backing down. We deserve a shot. This industry is kind of corrupt, but we're trying to make a difference. Thank you so much for your help, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, one thing we want to note before we move on, the Indiegogo campaign for LS Cream is about to end. There's like less than a week left. So if you've been watching the ad, Steven's plea for help, and you've been interested in contributing and helping, now is the time to do that. You're running out of time for their Indiegogo program. So again, go to Indiegogo.com, search for LS Cream, and you'll be able to find their program there. And also, if you're watching this show right now, the archive of the show, if you go down below, you'll be able to find a link where you can buy, and this is for sifters only, a Cray Mask t-shirt. And that is a good way to help them as well with their Indiegogo. So again, he got those t-shirts made and printed up just for us. So at the very least, head to Indiegogo.com, search for LS Cream, pick yourself up a Cray Mask t-shirt, and that is a good way to support them as well. But again, there's only a few days left in their Indiegogo program, so head on over there and help them out if you can. Again, go to Indiegogo and search for LS Cream. And with that, it's time to move on to our reviews. Not a bunch of big games coming out this week, Matt, but a couple interesting ones and a couple that are kind of near and dear to our hearts. Well, at least the first one is. And the first one is Earth Defense Force 6. Matt, when I say Earth Defense Force, what comes to your mind?
We're on an exciting underground expedition.
What did you just say?
I can't remember which one it was. I think it was 360 era. But, all the soldiers are with say stupid things all the time. It must have been 3 or maybe Insect Armageddon. I can't remember which one. But at one point, I never said it before, never said it since, never heard it again. But it was an underground level, and we're running along like through the caves of this ant nest, and one of the soldiers goes, "We're on an exciting underground expedition," and that's just one of the funniest things I ever heard in a video game. It is pure cheese from start to finish.
Yep. Earth Defense Force is a franchise where when you play it, you wonder if they intentionally make it bad.
They do.
They do? The developer Sandlot
knows. It is very much what it is because of what it is.
Yes, okay. I actually never knew that about it.
That may not have been true back in the day, but they have
they've embraced
definitely embraced what it is. And like you can tell that that's what the audience wants, because like the Iron Rain one was like a Western made one with more, it was a little less janky and a little more, but like nobody liked that one.
That's the last one. And that came out in 2019, I think.
More recently, yeah.
Yeah. Earth Defense Force 5 is actually like over a decade old.
5?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It was 2014 or 2015.
Was it?
Yeah. That's how long it's been since they've done the main.
That doesn't sound right, because this is a lot of the same.
Well, they did a bunch of side things in between.
Yeah, there was Iron Rain, and there was another one.
Yeah, they haven't stopped making them. They just didn't give it the mainline number until this one for whatever reason.
Yeah, this is Sandlot. I like Sandlot stuff. I understand anyone who doesn't, because they are very... 2017 was 5.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I wonder where I got that from. Oh, I know. I saw it. I know what it was. I saw a trailer for it in a folder on my PC, and I looked at the date, and the trailer said Earth Defense Force 5, and it said 2015 for the date.
Oh.
Weird. I guess it was probably the debut trailer, and then it came out 2 years later. So that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. That does add up. So anyway,
I don't know. Actually, December 11th, 2018.
For Earth Defense Force 5.
That was the Western, or that was outside Japan, I think.
Gotcha.
So simultaneous release in the United States, Europe, China, and South Korea on December 11, 2018. Is a digital exclusive for the PlayStation 4.
There always is a delay with these games coming to the West. Like they'll come out in Japan.
This is the first simultaneous worldwide release of an EDF game.
Ever.
Yeah.
Just watching the first 5 minutes.
Which I guess is why it's $60 fucking dollars.
It
is ridiculous.
It is $60.
I love this series. I love these games. They should not be $60.
This is
that is
quintessential
very, very silly
$30 video game.
Yes,
I mean, this is
100%,
and it always has been. It always has been a cheaper game. It hasn't been full price.
A couple of them have been pretty pricey. They've been $50, $60 before. One of the reasons a lot of times I don't get them when they first come out. EDF 5 I only got like last year because it was finally on sale for like $10 or something.
Yeah.
Which is about what it. And if you've played EDF 5. You're going to recognize a lot of this because it's
a lot of copy and paste.
They always reuse stuff, but actually the whole story is that this is one of the most poorly communicated stories I have ever seen.
There's a story, man?
There is. It's actually a very intricate time travel story. But you would never fucking know because they're so bad at communicating what's happening at any given time so like it starts with. It's weird because you actually play through the events of 5 in this because it starts with you in the future after the events of 5 or whatever. I think it's what it is. It's the invasion's already been happening and the population of the world is down like 90%. And
then they attack again.
And you've won. And like it starts with this very long, tedious thing where you meet your friend who's like a weapons engineer, and he's like, I was worried about you. You're on the front line the whole time. And you walk very slowly through a giant base.
Painfully
and
slow.
Then you have to sit through this ridiculous like
briefing
from this like wannabe Arlie Ermy guy, and then the aliens attack again, and you have to go out, and then it kind of goes through like the battle against this renewed invasion of the aliens, and there's some new stuff shows up. A lot of if you've played 5, you recognize these giant frog guys, who again, just like 5, inexplicably are described as looking exactly like humans. That was a joke in the first one. They say it again in this one. I'm like, what are you talking about?
They realized it was the one joke everybody laughed at in the last one.
And look, like, there is, like, but you can tell, like, there's an element sometimes of things where it's like, yes, it's very weird that these aliens from another world are bipedal with hands and 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth. Like, but, like, they don't look just like us.
Yeah.
They're giant frogs. Who can regrow limbs in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
They're fun to fight, though.
Yeah.
So you go through all this. There's some new stuff. There's
It's torture.
There's
playing the first like 40 minutes of this game. It is torture.
It takes a long time. You don't even, because like you start with like sort of a more ragtag group, and you don't get to be the EDF until mission 13 or 14.
Yeah, it is. It's 9, I think, isn't it?
No, it's 13 or
Is it
14.
13?
It's way up there because there's a little cross on it. That's how you can tell when something changes.
And then the text comes up on screen like, now you are
now
the
real EDF begins. Yeah, and you're like, I've been playing this for like an hour. And then you go through more and more. There's like 110 missions in the game.
Yeah, it's gigantic. This game is
they're always huge.
gigantic.
And
it's probably take you 40 hours to finish this game.
At least, and then like you got to do. I mean,
there's the bug for you.
Easy, brother. And that's what this.
Matt,
that's why this game is great.
So Matt, I sat through that horrible hour-long intro, and it's literally torture. Like there's this like static screen with text that takes way too long to change to the next text.
You can't skip anything.
Then you walk real slow through the base. Then you listen to that long ass like thing where he tells you what's going on. Then you go out and you have to go through this basic ass tutorial that takes way too long. After all that happens, the game starts. The gate comes down like right here. I run out. I run 40 yards, and I got stuck on geometry, and I could not get off the geometry. And I was like, this is EDF in a freaking nutshell. I just sat through a horrible cinema for an hour. I come out and play, and I get a glitch in the first 40 feet. I got stuck on a piece of rebar or something, and I could not get off of the rebar. And I had to basically restart the whole game from the beginning and go through the whole thing again, Matt. Mm-hmm. I had to go through the whole opening sequence again. It was just awful.
Yeah, I've been playing on PC, and thankfully it's been pretty bug-free.
There's some cool stuff. Actually, I'm going to rewind that clip very quickly right there.
So one of the things that goes on, so eventually you get through like, I think 30-some missions, 36, I want to say. And
you can play this cooperatively with 3 other people online as well.
But everyone's mad because you got to sign in through Epic Online Services to do that.
Yeah.
Which I'm playing single player offline, and I've not been seeing a single Epic anything. So if you don't like
I'm playing it on PS5. This B-roll's from PS5. You don't have to do the Epic stuff.
On PC, that's a big issue for some reason.
I brought the clip back, though, because I blew his leg off.
Yeah.
And now he's incapacitated and can't move.
Yeah, that's all from the last one.
Yeah. But my point is, there's little stuff like that in this game that surprises you because the rest of it is so janky. You're just like, wow, I can actually, like, cripple the enemies by shooting them in the knee.
One of the big things, so eventually you get through, like, 36 levels, and then on the next level... And it's very unclear exactly because you're trying to blow like one of the big ships up or whatever, and then it's like, and then 3 years pass.
Yeah.
And then it changed, and you go, and then the next one you pick, you're back in the first level.
And nothing has changed.
In the bunker, talking to your friend, and have to do this and then it unfolds. So what actually turns out is happening there, and I couldn't find a way that the game communicates this to you. You've gone through a time loop.
Oh.
So by blowing up this one ship, it sent you back through time, and you and your friend in the suit and in the tie remember that. And so and this happens like 5 times, and every time it's like, this is Earth Defense Force 7, and it goes up to like Earth Defense Force 9. You're repeating the over and over, and every time you and your friend there are trying to like explain like, no, this is going to happen, so we need to do this differently, and everyone calls you crazy, and then it all goes to hell again, and you do it again. You have to play through this section 5 times.
Oh my gosh.
And it happens faster each time, but the first time it happened, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like I literally quit out of the mission, and like checked
because
that
you
I
thought
hadn't
it made
accidentally
you start
picked
over
the first,
again.
I like, did I accidentally jump back to the top of the menu of the missions and pick the first one again? It's just so badly communicated. Like you have no idea what the hell is happening because none of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
And like the characters seem to know. Like the first. So like when I let it go further. The guy in the tie, the first time he's like, no, I had to go help my family, so I just worked as an engineer. I never actually saw combat. And then when you see him this time, he's like, this time my wife was killed.
Oh,
and I'm like, and none of them react to the idea. Like,
Yeah.
so they seem to know that this happened before. And now they're back in time and it's different. But no one says anything about how weird that is. He's just sad that his wife's dead this time. And I'm like, this time? What does that mean? Like, it's so strange.
It's really insane. It
But
really is.
But that's the thing is like like normally that wouldn't be an issue because all I'm here to do is I'm just here to chew bubblegum and kill ants.
Yeah.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah.
But like
And there's plenty of ants.
if you're gonna make me walk slowly through the halls of a giant facility, I'm gonna have time to think about the dumb shit you're doing.
And that's the thing. Like, we've just made fun of this game for 10 minutes or whatever. It's still fun.
Yeah, it's still enjoyable.
It's a fun game. Like, I'm sure you're watching this. You're like, oh, it does get monotonous. I'll say this.
Yeah.
The missions are way too long. Like, they're like twice as long as they should be.
Too long, and also like the key way you upgrade in this game is you have to pick all these crates up. Right. The red ones are armor that gives you more life going forward. The green ones are weapons that upgrades your weapons. And then there's obviously health, and health will also heal your allies. And if you run out of allies in this one, you're kind of dead.
Oh, yeah.
Like if
It gets hard.
If they're all just focusing on you, you may not survive.
Or if you run away from the group and you aren't with your allies, you're pretty much toast.
You got to stick together in this one
Even
more
on normal.
more than the last couple. I was a little surprised. And then like there was one mission where I ran into, I'm like, oh, I need to completely revamp my I got to change my class. I got to they're enemies from the previous game even that I fought before, and I'm like, they've just never done what they did in this. And I'm like, oh no, like, and I tried like 4 times, couldn't do it with my ranger, so I had to switch to a lancer. And I hate the Lancer.
Yeah, I didn't like it either.
But the Lancer has the shield, so I needed to not get ragdolled.
The Lancer's so slow. Like, I didn't enjoy playing with that character at all.
The Lancer's the only class I don't really like.
Yeah.
This looks like you're playing the Air Diver, the Air Raider, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and he can basically call in like airstrikes. That's kind
fun.
of his super
He's a little better in multiplayer because he lacks some self-reliance, basically. Yeah. But he's cool. The Wing Divers are cool. They're hard to use. Because
they have no shields.
The life maximums are remarkably different. Like the life maximum on the Ranger, I think, is like 1,500, and the life maximum on the Wing Diver is 550 or something like that.
Yeah.
You cannot get hit as the Wing Diver.
I'll say this though: I wish there were more games like this that are just like stupid and mindless, but they're just fun. Like playing this cooperatively, there's some issues like. The servers and stuff, like, there's so many people playing this game. You have no problem getting games.
Yeah, but clearly the price was not a deterrent.
No. But the problem is that, like, most of those people are playing, like, mission number 89 or mission 72. And if you try to play those, you just get annihilated.
Yeah, the difficulty levels on these games are not kidding.
No, they are legit. And
it says, like, play normal until you attempt hard after you're upgraded a little bit, and they aren't fucking around. Like
I found it hard to find games where I could be competitive online because if you're first starting out, you need to find people who are playing the first 10 to 15 matches or missions, and if you can't find those people, you go into someone playing mission 16, they are going to be reviving your ass literally like every 45 seconds, and eventually they get sick of it and they just kick you. And so I struggled to be able to find people to play with online. Like, once I found somebody who was around the same level as me, I just stuck with them. I was like, okay, it's you and me, bro. We're going to try to go through this whole game together online. And people would jump in and, like, join our game here and there. But, like, I found it very difficult to find people who were playing online that were exactly where I was. And a lot of times I was just playing in these missions I had no business being in, where if literally an alien touched me, I just died. And so that was a little bit of a struggle. And look, playing this by yourself at single player, no thanks. Like
that's the only way I play this.
It gets so monotonous so fast if you play it by yourself. Like, you can go around and collect like these little groups of troops that help you. Like, you can build a little army that follows you around, and that helps. But again, the missions are too long. Like, some of them last like 20 minutes. They should be 10 minutes. Because the enemies are just so repetitive. The buildings are so repetitive. There's just so much copy and paste going on. that I enjoy it as long as I'm jumping around and playing a bunch of different missions. Having to stay on one for too long.
I single player death march all through.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would never want to play it that way.
Really? Interesting. And if that's the case, then how is the game balanced for you? Like as far as like going mission by mission, is it good?
It's fine. It's there's a couple spikes. There's like I think mission 34 had a spike to it because there were a couple times when like it actually sort of forcibly explained to me, it's like, yes, you are going to need to manage your allies on this, and so I had to kind of pay attention. A lot of times in this series, you've got the guys with you, but you can just sort of let them die. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to save them or anything.
But they have in this one, like there's some missions where it's like if you don't have at least like distractions, you're going to die. Everyone's gonna focus. Like I was kiting like 1,000 androids around one map for like 10 minutes, just picking one off at a time.
Yeah,
and like it took me like half an hour, but I did it.
Yeah,
and then like I had to leave one. Of course, I had to leave one alive. Oh, these are one of the more interesting new enemies. Those squid things.
Yeah,
where they have this shield that automatically blocks, and then it gets stuck, and then you can hit them.
Right,
and you can blow their tentacles off. And you can just blow the tentacle off holding the shield, and they have no defense anymore. Or you can blow the tentacle off holding the guns, which I strongly recommend because they have the worst weapons.
Yeah, I mean, you can disarm enemies too. Like you can blow their arm off, and they can't pick up a gun anymore. So there is a little bit of strategy.
Those guys are new. Those guys, that guy down there is new. I think. Like these big armored dudes. There's these things. I thought they were like sparrows at first, but then they came up close, and it turns out they're frogs that can fly. Game's weird. And
it really is weird.
And the other weird thing is like nobody will call them what they are. Like they don't. No one says the phrase giant ant in this game. Any of these games, they just say monsters. I'm like, they're giant ants, assholes.
It's like ants don't exist in their world or something.
We're gonna call them anomalous entity delta. I'm just like, call it the giant ant, moron. Like, what do you? And there's some big oversized like specialized versions of like the ants and the spiders in this that weren't in the previous game, like that are huge and like have electric webs and things.
Yeah.
So they have like added some things, but you're gonna be playing for like 2-3 hours before you even see something new.
Yeah.
In this.
It's very monotonous. Like you fight the same enemies over
but
and over
it
and
is
over
still
again.
fun.
It is fun. I still had fun with it. I would not ever spend $60 for this fun. $30, I would have been cool with it. $60 is way too much for this game or this franchise in general.
I mean, I wouldn't have done that if we weren't doing the show.
Right. Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah. I did have fun with it though. I played it for a whole day. Like, am I jonesing to play more of it? Not really. Like, I probably spent 10 hours total playing it, something like that. And I feel like I got everything out of it that I could pretty much get out of it. I think I've seen, again, jumping around online is convenient. It helps you see kind of the whole game and see all the enemies without having to plow through the campaign mission by mission.
One of the other nice updates is if you see in the lower right corner above the gun thing, it shows you damage numbers now. So you know what kind of damage you're doing to enemies, which you could never quite be sure of before. And so it'll teach you like where the weak spots are, where the places to shoot or where you don't want to shoot. Like, that was nice. I thought that only took them 20-30 years. Because the first one of these is on the Super Famicom.
I know. I mean, again, I do wish there were more games like this. I feel like we've lost these like games that are so bad that they're good.
Sort of. I mean, no one's ever really made games like this except Sandlot. Like, they also made, Robot Alchemic Drive.
Yeah.
Which I love. And there was some streamer started playing that this week, and I've seen Robot Alchemic Drive pop up on Twitter a bunch, where people are discovering the robot killed grandma scene and all that stuff. And like, so people are even talking, it's like, oh, XPlay used to use this all the time as like a transitional thing. I'm like, yeah, I used to make them do that. Like, But like, I love that. I mean, that's also a janky, weird game that doesn't make a lot of sense and takes forever and has like 100 missions and like. They're the only ones who do these, and I would love to see people like steal this idea from. And there's that 50s sci-fi angle they use with it.
There used to be just a lot more Japanese games like this that were just very Japanese. They were like, there were language issues. They didn't quite understand Western culture, and you would just get caught off guard with these interesting moments in these games. And I feel like everything has just kind of been homogenized at this point. Like, Japanese developers know now that like Western audiences laugh at some of that stuff, and so they've removed them from the games. Like, This is a throwback to old school Japanese. I don't give a F.
Well, I saw younger people like on Twitter and stuff asking if the script and the voice acting in this were AI. And it's just like, no, this is just what it is.
Yeah,
like,
that's what it is.
AI is about at the level of an incompetent translator circa 2002, I guess. Also, too much of this is actually funny for it to not to be intentional.
Yeah.
There's a
you can tell that they're leaning into it a little bit for sure, and that's cool. Like again, I wish there were more games like that's hilarious.
And so much of it is like you can tell like they're parodying sort of like American disaster movies and things. Like there's one thing where the guy, where your friend is talking to the drill sergeant guy about like during a mission about how like it's like, oh, I didn't see any fighting, I had to go try to save my family, and the drill sergeant's like, it's like, well, I don't understand, but I see what you mean. And it's just like, what? Like he's like, not a choice I'd make for myself, but I understand.
And it doesn't make any sense.
And it's just like, I love that. Like that's clearly sort of like they're sort of lampooning how like more understanding and like aware of feelings that like modern movies are. It's like I respect your choice. You know, but whereas like the '50s version of that character would have just been like, "What's wrong with you? You unpatriotic
get it in gear." Yep. And look, the gore is like way over the top. Again, like you play this game and like every 5 minutes something happens where you're like, it'll make you laugh or smile. Like, and again, I just wish there were more games like this than there are today.
And there's just so many weapons and so many different like guns. If you want to just shoot, normal machine guns or
I mean, for your $60, you're getting a lot of content. It's just whether you want to keep playing the content.
Can summon in fucking mech suits and stuff. You get real crazy.
It does get crazy. Yeah. I saw Vincent ask, a better janky Japanese franchise with infinite content, Earth Defense Force or Dynasty Warriors?
Oh, Earth Defense Force.
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors has had too many misfires.
Yep. Ashes in the Hourglass says this is a PS2 ass game.
They
haven't changed it much from the PS2 era.
No, Earth Defense Force isn't always great, but it is dependable.
And it's entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately,
like there has never been an Earth Defense Force I just couldn't fucking play.
Right.
Whereas like Dynasty
Warriors, I didn't enjoy for at least a couple hours.
There have been some Muso games where I'm just like, this sucks.
Yeah, no, you're right. Where I didn't want to play them at all. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would side with EDF as well. But $60, I can't in good
$60 is a crazy price for this.
It really is. Yeah. And it never really has been that way. Like I don't understand why they're.
No, it's been full price for its time periodically.
Really?
Not always. Like Insect Armageddon wasn't, and like the spin-offs haven't been. Iron Rain wasn't, but the numbered ones generally are too expensive.
The mainline EDF games that are actually
the main series where you get the real lore. Because I mean that's kind of true. Like Insect Armageddon and Iron, like those are all alternate universes, whereas this is. This is a direct sequel to 5 that basically does the Avengers Endgame story with it. It's very weird. Like you can see where they're you can see what they're drawing from. It's very weird, and it's kind of like I appreciate just the sheer audacity of this thing to do that. But in the meantime, it's just like to get through it, you're gonna have to play through 110 really repetitive level, and every once in a while, it's like. Something weird happens and like the story doesn't make like there's a period of time in the 20s or 30s of the beginning of the game where like the monsters are attacking a city and like there's all these missions where you're like defending the city against these monsters and you're like and all the dialogue is like we have to stop them, if they take this city we have no place to fight from and okay, and then you're going through like 5 of those missions and then suddenly you have a mission where you have to defend a hot springs resort in the mountains of Japan against like stragglers who were left behind, like, and then you jump back to the city mission. I'm like, what the fuck was the hot springs?
I mean, I like playing these games, but I also like talking about them and reviewing them. Like, again, I miss it. Like, this is a little taste of X-Play here, where it's like you have this goofy game, you can still have fun with it, you try to find the fun in it, and you try to show it to the audience. That's what we did with X-Play. There aren't games like that anymore that you can even do that with, and it was refreshing to play another one years later in Earth Defense Force 6. So I did have fun with it. Like, I played it for a day, I had a good time with it. I wouldn't spend more than $30 for this game, though. That is the max I would be willing to pay for it.
I mean, you could just go get EDF 5 for
and
like
you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
And it's very much, I mean, obviously you won't know what's going on if you don't play EDF 5 before this, because it's a direct sequel, time travel.
Okay.
And the other one, I mean, I thought Iron Rain was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was a little.
Did we even review that on GameFace? I don't think we did.
I don't think so.
Yeah. We talked about it because I do have like a trailer for it on the TriCaster, but I don't think we ever reviewed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It had a different angle on things. It was a little less entertaining in the sense of the cheese.
Yeah.
But it was probably a better game.
Yeah.
But
It's like games don't have to be good to be fun to watch on a show like GameFace.
Yeah, but you kind of gotta. I think if you made like a AAA, like super high quality Earth Defense Force, I think it would suck.
I don't think it would. Yeah,
It wouldn't work.
No, it would be just another like mediocre game that we talk about for 10 minutes and we're like, yeah, don't buy it. Like I would spend $25 for it. Like this has at least its own unique selling proposition. In 2024, it really does. Going back to what I was saying 5 minutes ago about how you don't see games like this anymore. This is an anomaly now in the industry.
If you want like mediocre shooting monsters, there's tons of free-to-play games.
There really are, yeah. So. And they are free, to be fair. But anyway, that's Earth Defense Force 6. It's available for PC and both PlayStations. Not available for Switch or Xbox, though.
No, actually, maybe I was wrong. I think this might be the first time PC has launched simultaneously in the West with the consoles. I think it's already been out in Japan.
Yeah, I thought there was at least a little bit of a delay from Japan to here.
It usually is.
Yeah.
Which is weird because you think you could get that one together on time.
But I'll say this, like, it is more fun to play than watching that B-roll. I'm sure you watch the B-roll, you're like, oh my god, this game looks like somebody said in our chat, from 2002. But when you play it, you get kind of sucked up into it, and it's fun.
But also, like, if you play it on, like, PC, or, it's interesting to play it on PC because there's no slowdown anymore.
Right.
There's no chugging, everything.
Even when it's just total
thousands
insanity.
Of these. Like, there's one level where these green ants show up, and they're fat. They're, like, triple as fast as normal ants, and they appear like in the horizon thing, and they're like, oh, they're coming pretty fast, and like suddenly they're just there, and you're holy shit! Like it was. There's some moments where it's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, they're able to play with the distance and the scale in ways they couldn't. That's the one thing that this one does that 5 doesn't. Is like there's stuff that shoots miles away, and like I was sniping guys off of buildings, but then the problem is like. You got to run all the way over there to get the upgrade stuff they drop. And you're like, there is a mod you can use that automatically collects all the boxes for you. And I've really thought about it.
No one's going to say anything. It's Earth Defense Force, man.
Right. Because like, otherwise you basically have to leave one guy alive and run around and collect all the boxes and then kill him. Because otherwise the thing ends and you can't pick everything up.
Right. Yep. So anyway, that's Earth Defense Force 6. Again, PC, both PlayStations. $60, like these, unlike Nintendo's games, this game will come down in price. Eventually, it'll be in sales.
Oh yeah, this thing will be $9 in 2 years.
It's just mindless fun, and I feel like we don't get enough of that in video games anymore. Everything's so serious.
The Dynasty Warriors games probably are the closest comparison.
It's a good analog from Vincent there for sure.
It's a similar idea,
vibe, in concept. And I think EDF is better than Muso games.
For the most. I think the best Muso games are better than the best EDF games, but I think EDF is more consistent across the board. Yep. Like there is no EDF game that's better than like the Fire Emblem Muso games.
No.
But there's a lot of Muso games that are worse than EDF.
Oh yeah. A lot of them. Honestly. Because for a while there in the early aughts, man, the Muso genre was just overload. Way too much.
The Dynasty Warriors and the Samurai Warriors and the Warriors Orochi. And
1 Million Troops.
Yeah. Well, that was a different game.
Right. But it was still a Muso game.
Sort of. I mean, Muso is a brand.
It is. I mean, it's Koei Tecmo's brand. But, I mean, to me, it's a subgenre.
It's the 1 Million Troops thing. Yeah. And that was on sale before the 360 shut down.
Yeah.
99 Nights 2.
Yep.
I don't have.
For those of you who remember that Konami press conference.
I think I have that on disc. I don't think I need that digitally.
That's how you know you're an OG, if you knew what I was talking about right there when I said 1 Million Troops. If you knew what I was talking about, you're an OG. Okay, let's move on. Next up is our sneaker of the week from New York Sneaker Society. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right. I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh.
For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off.
That's right. Go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted and make sure you use that URL because the ad says 10% off, but that URL actually gets you 15% off. So make sure that you use it. I've talked about their products extensively here on GameFace. And if you go to the website, again, nysneakersociety.co/sifted, you'll see that they have a wide range of products that are good for anything that you need. Whether you just want to clean up your shoes, you have new shoes you just want to keep cleaned up when you go out on dates or whatever, they have stuff for that. Or you have shoes like me that you've had in the closet that you didn't want to get rid of, and now you are very thankful that you never got rid of them. They have products that will bring those shoes that you think maybe you should throw away, will bring them back to life until you're wearing them again. I have dusted off at least 3 pairs of Air Max 95s that I've started wearing again thanks to New York Sneaker Society. So again, make sure you go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted and get 15% off your order. And one thing that we do with that sponsorship here on GameFace is we like to call out some of the bigger, smaller games from the week, games that you guys are tracking, games that you guys followed, games that you guys like, trailers that you guys watched for some of the smaller games that don't normally get a lot of airtime on GameFace. And that game this week, the one that you guys all checked out, is a game called Truck Full. It is a physics-driven delivery simulation with a very cute and colorful exterior. And basically your job is just to pick up stuff and deliver it. But the thing is that like the physics in this game are crazy accurate. So you have to be very, very careful. It's like that, we talked about a game a few months ago called Mud Runner, where it's this technical driving sim where you literally have to like look at every foot before you go forward or backwards.
Very accurate simulator in a world with no bungee cords.
Yeah. Well, this game isn't quite like Mud Runner. So it gives you a little bit more leeway. The physics aren't that crushing and difficult and brutal, but you got to take it easy in this game. It's one of those games where you got to take it kind of minute by minute, foot by foot, and manage the physics to make sure you're not dropping a bunch of stuff off. It is the game that caught your eye this week, the one that you guys watched the most as far as smaller independent games. And honestly, this game caught my eye too. Like, there just aren't games that look like this or, in all honesty, really play like this. I could only think of one, and that is the Mud Runner and Snow Runner series. And they actually spun off of each other so that there was 2 franchises that were kind of doing the same thing, but really, ultimately, it still is the same franchise. But anyway, this game right now is only scheduled for PC. My guess is eventually it will come to everything. It is called Truck Full, Truckful. Another thing I like to remind you guys of when we do this segment is that you should be following games on Sifted, games like this. Games where you're like, wow, that's really cool, but you know what? I'll probably forget about it in a week. I don't want to forget about it. If you see games like that on Sifted, click on the title of the game, go to the game page. There's a little gear right next to the title. Click that. There's a drop down and select follow. And then every time we publish something new for that game, it will appear at the top of your Sift and you will not miss it. So again, this game is called Truckful. It's coming to PC. It is your New York Sneaker Society Sneaker of the Week. Matt, can you think of any other games that game reminds you of?
I mean, it reminds me of something, but I can't quite place it. Like, I've definitely played games where I'm trying to balance dumb physics with, like, holding things or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of it. Like the shifting around in the truck bed reminds me of something I can't quite place.
Does Moving Out have physics like that?
Moving Out?
Yeah, that moving game, that cooperative moving game where you're like getting all the stuff out of the house and putting it in a truck.
I don't know.
You haven't played it?
That.
I haven't either. I've just seen it and I know about it. But again, I struggled to find another analog.
I guess it kind of reminds me of QWOP.
What's QWOP?
That's that game where you're the runner and you have to like you use the Q, W, O, and P keys, and it doesn't like you can't control them properly, and it just falls over all the time.
I've never played that actually.
That was like one of the big time waster web browser games.
Oh, I don't
remember.
remember.
That's the guy who did I think that one where I can't remember the name of it, but it's the guy in the barrel, and you're trying. He has to.
He's got the hammer, and he's like climbing with the hammer.
That guy.
Yeah,
that's the same guy who did that game.
I see.
And he's working on a new. He's doing the baby steps game.
Oh,
that's him. That's that guy.
I could see where you could connect the dots.
I believe that's the QWOP guy.
Okay. Interesting. But anyway, that game is called Truckful. It's only coming to PC. Follow it so you know more when we know more. And with that, it's time to move on to our last topic of GameFace 397. We're going to review a game that Matt actually played last week. We didn't have room for it in last week's show, and it worked out great because that gave me a chance to play it. Actually, a couple people had recommended me that I play this. Vincent was one of them. He said, you'll like this game. And now that I've played it, I agree, and that game is called Dungeons of Hinterberg. I guess the best way I could describe this game is it's like Westworld, HBO's show. It's basically about this town that has discovered magic. And not only did they discover magic, they also discovered that there are these dungeons right outside of town where people can go and ply their trade, use their magic, and it's become a tourist trap. People go here on their holidays, on their vacations, to basically just go and use magic for the first time and fight through a bunch of dungeons. And that's
It reminds me of how Mount Everest is treated these days.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, basically every mountain now. Like, I just saw a bunch of people died
K2.
I just saw a bunch of people died on Mount Fuji yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
It's the same thing. It's like an amusement park ride where people are waiting in line to climb up the mountain and stuff. And that's kind of the concept behind this. People go here to basically just try magic and go in the dungeons and fight. And I would not be surprised if one day there is a movie or a TV show based upon this game. I mean, they kind of already did it with Westworld, to be honest with you. But this does have its own kind of twist on it.
This has a little more of a... Like, I like that... Like, you can even see, she's wearing basically, like, dungeon equipment from REI. You know, and everyone's got the little, enjoy your sleigh. I get all this. Like, it does a really good job of imagining how fucking stupid it would be if this happened, you know. Like, I can even imagine... Like, the only thing I think they get wrong in this is I think there should be 40 times more people.
Right.
Like, if this happened in real life, you wouldn't be able to fucking
it
move.
would be mobbed.
Because I would want to go do this.
I would
I would absolutely go kill some goblins.
Hell yeah.
100%. But, like, they even get into that where it's like, oh, we think they're just non-sentient. We don't think they're intelligent or anything.
Yeah, they don't feel pain or...
Sure. It would be very bad for you financially if they did, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And then eventually, like, the big part of the game is getting to know the people in the town.
Yeah, there's a persona element to this.
Yeah, there's a whole mechanic of, like, managing your day.
Yeah, because the day is there's a morning and noon, an afternoon and an evening. And, like, morning, you basically choose where to go because there's 4 main areas where the dungeons are. And you go and you choose. You can either go in a dungeon or spend time with someone or sit around and look at stuff. And each one will give you different bonuses. And that takes up your afternoon. And then you decide what to do with your evening. You can either do stuff by yourself or go hang out with other people. One of the main ways you upgrade your character is by forging friendships and relationships with the other people in the town. And
yeah, they give you buffs and perks.
Yeah, handily they give you you get a log book that tells you what everybody's going to give you next, so you can decide who you want to buddy up to get the next ability for. I will give you a suggestion. The first thing you want to upgrade is your dodge roll stamina, and the second thing is to talk to the weird Matrix-looking guy and get the combo meter, because the combo meter, every time you do hits on things, as your combo goes up, you get bonuses for attack, healing, magic point regeneration, everything, and like it changes the game.
Yeah,
you no longer are reliant on items as much. You become much more self-sufficient. So those would be my recommendations.
I mean, I just went for hit points and magic points. The bottom line is, on the default setting, the game is really easy. Like,
it's easy once you get past how terrible the camera is.
Yeah. I mean, I got pretty good at controlling the camera, but
it sits behind trees, and it sits.
Yeah.
They put you in some small areas, especially early like that, where it's just like, okay, the light's in my way. The lock-on is kind of not needed most of the time because it just sort of...
I hardly ever use it.
Gets in your way.
It locks on automatically for the most part.
Yeah, she slides around and catches, like, even if you're not locked on, she will...
And literally
keep
slides.
Up with, like right there, I can see right there. She just she sticks to the enemies and to finish the combo. Like, you don't even need to move to do that.
Yeah.
Which is not. It would be more frustrating if she didn't.
And there are undertones of the plot where the mayor of the town is a total idiot, and she's like ruining the town, and so there's like a political angle to it where you get wrapped up.
There's something shady happening in the town with the whole tourist trap thing. There's a surprise. So this takes place in Austria, in
the Alps, right?
In Hinterberg, which is a real town in Austria. Your character is a lawyer from Vienna who hates being a lawyer and decides to come here to sort of find herself. And there's a surprising amount of like small town versus big city Austrian politics
There
in
are,
this.
yeah.
And like, because it's an Austrian game, and there's moments where you're like, it's like a weird little insight into what it's like to live in
For
Austria.
their life,
and it's like, and you realize it is a different thing, like where it's like, there's an element of a tourist trap thing that there's locals you can befriend who like don't like you at first because you're a tourist. And that was it. That kid, there's 2 teenagers that do that. She had a good first bonus. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, she takes you find weapons that are covered in goo, and is she the one that removes the goo?
No, that's the guide.
That's the tourist guy.
Tourist guide.
Yeah.
She the first thing you get from her is a key that opens locked chests.
Yeah,
that's a very important one.
But all of them matter, and like you can go and look at this book, and it'll tell you. So each person that you have relationships with, there's like 3 or 4 levels, and it'll show you what you get at each level. So it's very easy to kind of map out like, hey, I want an extra hit point. I'm going to go on a date with this guy or this girl. Oh, I need another magic point. I'm going to go and have a date with this person. Like, it's very easy to figure out what you need or what you think you need and then go and get it in this game. But it's also very time consuming because, as Matt pointed out, this whole game is structured in daytime and you have like 3 events during the day. So you can't just go like, hey, I'm going to go on a date with this girl and then this guy, and I'm going to get a hit point and a magic point. You can only do that once per day, basically. So there is a rhythm, a grind to building up your character over time.
Yeah, and you can do things like you can stay up late and do things that, because you have 4 stats. There's like familiarity, amusement.
I don't remember what
2
the other
others,
4 are. Yeah.
and those are the one. It's not like respectability, but it's like notoriety or like fame, like a fame sort of thing.
Yeah,
that's the one guy won't talk to you until you have a certain level of famousness.
Yep,
that kind of thing. And so you can do different things to up those, and then like if you stay up late, you'll have less health in the next day. So maybe you shouldn't try a dungeon. You should go sit and hang out in nature, and that will up your hit points even more than doing a dungeon for the first time. I think gives you 5 more hit points permanently, and sitting around for the afternoon gives you 10.
Right. So it's like a seesaw. You have to manage, figure out what you want, and it's not hard to figure out how to get what you want in the game. And then, like, basically how it works is there's 4 areas in the game. You go to that area, and it's kind of like an open world. And inside each one of those areas, there's like 7 or 8 dungeons that you need to play through, and they become unlocked as you complete 1. 2 more will unlock or whatever.
They're gated usually by story stuff or by abilities she has. And the first one is the only one that's open at first, and slowly those will be reopened as time goes on.
Yeah, they're repairing the areas basically, and as they repair an area, it will come online, and then you can play it.
And they're they're extremely varied. Like every area has magic you can learn, and the magic is
two types
spells.
of magic.
There's always basically a traversal spell and a ranged spell, and you can only use them in that area and in the dungeons in that area. So the first area you get like a tornado that can move stuff around or carry you.
The first area you get the exploding ball and the ball and chain.
Oh, the ball and chain. That's right.
Yeah.
I spent more time in the tornado area.
Yeah. But each area is themed. So there's like a wind area, there's a fire area, there's the first one is the ball and chain area. But you only have those 2 attacks in each one of those areas. So it's like a lot of action RPGs, it's like you learn something, you can always use that thing. That's not how it works in this game. You can only use the 2 very specific spells that you get inside that area while playing in that area.
And that's because they are mostly puzzle solving tools.
Yeah.
They aren't really combat. I mean, you use them in combat. I use them in combat all the time. But mainly they are going to tell you what puzzle types you are solving in each of the dungeons in that zone.
And the puzzles are pretty good in this. I was pleasantly surprised.
They have a good ramp to them. You have to be more creative with how you use them.
Yeah.
My favorite ones are the third one, the ice area, where one of your spells is literally just a hoverboard.
Yeah.
And you can like grind like there's some like Mario Galaxy stuff in this.
There's round worlds in this. Like they need to have that traversal in every area though. Like they need to give you something that helps you travel fast, because that's what I missed the most about leaving that area, was that I couldn't just go somewhere very quickly.
Well, fast travel's pretty
ubiquitous. I would probably use a few more nodes for fast travel though.
Every major area I found was a fast travel place.
Yeah, I mean, but it takes a while to run from one fast travel node to another. Like it's usually like a mile apart or something like that, virtual mile apart, roughly. But
you can just fast travel whenever you want.
Yeah, you can. Or wait, you don't have to be at a node to fast travel?
No.
Oh, I thought I had to be.
No, you just go to the map.
That's hilarious.
No wonder you were taking so long to get over.
That's hilarious. I never figured out that I could just fast travel whenever. I always thought I had to go to one of those signs and use the map to fast travel. Interesting.
It does kind of imply that, but that's not true.
Interesting. I had never figured that out and I almost finished this game. At least I think I almost finished it.
If I remember right, the dialogue you get when they first teach you about the fast, I think it does imply that you need to be that's not, but it isn't.
Interesting. But I had a lot of fun with this game. I think I probably played it 15 hours, something like that. And I got to the 4th area and played through the first dungeon or 2 of the 4th area. So I feel like I was close to wrapping it up. My guess is it's probably around 20 hours long, the game is.
Yeah, I think the time to beat says about 14.
Oh, so I was right at the end then.
No, I think you were further away. Like,
Yeah.
I'm at 15, 16, and I got like half the dungeons done.
On the final area, you mean?
No, in the world. Because there's like 24.
Yeah, I have
24
more than
dungeons.
half of the dungeons done, total dungeons.
There's 24 dungeons.
They show you that screen that shows you all of them. I have more than half of them done. Way more, actually. I would almost clean up one area before I would move on to the next one for whatever dumb reason.
I would usually move on when they would
allow it.
So I did the first couple of the 4th area earlier, and
yeah, but
I didn't actually like those very much. The 4th area is my least favorite.
Me too. It does give you flexibility, though, in how you tackle the game. Like, you can stay with an area for longer if you want to, or you can move on to the next one like Matt did. If you're tired of using the same 2 spells that you're using in the area that you had before. So there's some flexibility in how you play it. Obviously, you see the graphics. Like, I feel like this is going to be one of those art styles that people will either love or hate, depending on their tastes. Like,
yeah, it's a kind of a comic book.
Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I don't. It's kind of weird. I don't like her. Like, I don't like how she looks very much. But then some other characters I really liked, and some parts in the world are really stunning.
She's a little... I mean, I don't mind how she looks. I do wish I could change her clothes. Like, I wish she wasn't stuck in that teal jacket the whole time. I wish I could, like, change the color of the jacket. And they actually mentioned that a few times, where she's like, I don't really like this color, but it was what they had, kind of thing.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun with this game. It is an action RPG. As you've seen, the combat is totally active. I do wish there was maybe some more combos for just the hack and slash combat. It kind of gets pretty used up, but then you just start using the spells more. And to Matt's point earlier, they are multifunctional. They work a lot in puzzle solving, but most of them also work really well in combat. Like, I would forget sometimes to use them in combat, and then I would and be like, hot damn, this is really powerful. I need to use this more often. But the hacking and slashing in this is very... It gets old pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, you got your basic attack, and you mix in a heavy attack, which is pretty useful because it usually will knock things off their feet. But yeah, it is what it is.
And then for some reason,
although there is a good I guess you can kind of game the system and buy powerful stuff early on. Like, and there's a point where, like, when you upgrade all your stuff, you feel the difference.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Good.
Yeah, you can feel the RPG elements in this are effective, and you definitely feel them, no doubt about it. But again, you do end up doing a lot of the same hacking and slashing, like, over and over and over again. I was really more pleasantly surprised by the puzzles. Like, the environmental puzzles in this, they really use the magical spells that they give you about as much as they possibly could. And there's, like, one area, there's a bunch of crazy, like, minecart puzzles where you're, like, moving the tracks and, like, switching tracks. And I was more impressed with the puzzle stuff in this than the actual combat part of it. And then there's that whole weird thing where, like, you get to the end of a dungeon and you have to go to this little podium and get a stamp kind of in your passport saying that you had finished the level. And that helps play out the whole, like, tourism thing a lot more. Because when you get into these dungeons, you kind of forget the whole setup of the game. Because when you get in there, you're like, I'm just killing everything and solving every puzzle. But then you get to the end, you're like, oh, that's right, I'm a tourist, and this is like me going to a new country and getting a stamp on my passport. Like, it's a pretty cool game, man. Like, I really like the concept behind it. Again, I think that this is something that can spread out into pop culture. There can be a movie or a TV show around the whole idea. There kind of already was. And this game is on Game Pass, so if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can get it for free. I actually didn't check the price to pay for it. Did you, by any chance?
No, I think it's $30.
$30. And this is only PC and Xbox Series right now. My guess is eventually it'll come to everything because, this will run on Switch, no problem.
Yeah.
And so my guess is eventually PlayStation and Switch will be on the docket. But right now, you can only get it on PC and Xbox. But as always, the best way to play it is to spend now your $20 and get it along with all the other awesome stuff that's on Game Pass for your $20 monthly charge. So I had a lot of fun with it. I felt like, again, like with Earth Defense Force, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I got to the final area. I played through the first couple dungeons. Like you, I also thought it was the weakest of the 4 areas, and I kind of lost interest, and I didn't go back and play it. I did not finish it. And this may end up being another one of those games where, like, I got so close to the end and just never quite crossed the finish line, and then I never go back to play it either.
Yeah, I'll still probably finish it.
You think you will?
Yeah, I mostly played it last week. I didn't play it too much this week.
Yeah.
I was mostly stunned that I like this so much more than Flintlock.
Yeah, I did too.
Because I was expecting Flintlock to be kind of the thing I played more, and this one took over the week.
Oh, I enjoyed this way more than Flintlock. I wish I had played this last week instead of Flintlock, honestly. But I just didn't. No one recommended it to me until after I had already got into Flintlock.
Yeah, I saw it on the Game Pass thing, and I'm like, oh, I remember the trailer, and I was like, oh yeah, that looks kind of cute. Like I'll try that, and I just was like, I'll give it a shot, and then that's the main thing I played last week.
Yeah, it has a really cool concept that I admit it hooked me in. It got me excited. I was excited to go back to town after finishing a dungeon and see what was happening back in town.
It has huge one more turn energy.
Yeah. And, it's not quite Persona level where, like, your days, you have to really, like, micromanage it. Like, you can take a day off and just go sit somewhere, sit by the campfire for a night if you want to.
Yeah, things don't really have a deadline to them.
Yeah.
There's a reason one of your stats is relaxation.
Yeah. And the game makes sure that if you do decide to just relax or do something chill on one of your nights, it doesn't punish you for it.
In fact, it rewards you for it.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it does, yeah. So again, this is Dungeons of Hinterberg, only available for PC and Xbox. It's around $30. I would be totally fine paying $30 for this game. If it is indeed $30, totally. I'm totally fine with that. And paying $20 for a month of Game Pass to play this, obviously, totally cool with that as well. So I was pleasantly surprised by this game. I was really shocked at how much I enjoyed it, honestly. So would you recommend it as well, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. For $30, you'd recommend it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's totally worth the money. Ashes in the Hourglass says, reminds me of Sable. To me, this game is miles better than Sable. It looks like it.
It just means the look.
The look, yeah. The visuals for sure. But I enjoyed playing this way more than I enjoyed playing Sable.
It's not comparable to Sable as a game. Like, they're two very different things.
Well, yeah. I mean, it still had that open world with the bike traversal and all that stuff in it,
but
too.
this doesn't have anything like that.
Yeah. Well, except for the snowboarding thing.
Yeah, but that's only in
one of the areas,
zone.
Yeah. Vincent says the end is beating all the dungeons. Okay, then I am actually really close to finishing the game. I could probably beat a couple more of the dungeons. Or wait, is he saying like going back and beating every one in every area? Or just like, I guess he is.
Yeah, there's 24 dungeons and you have to finish them all.
Yeah, okay.
I guess more because there's others that pop up. There's ones off the grid.
Yeah.
And they're story driven. But
yeah. But otherwise, yeah, I really enjoyed this game. Again, it's on Game Pass. You can play it for free. I know people hate when we say that, but if you pay $20 for the month, you can play this plus, dozens of other awesome games that are on Game Pass right now. And I would definitely recommend doing that. And I would recommend paying $30 for it. So if this game comes out later on for Switch or PlayStation, you can reference this review still months from now or a year from now. And yeah, we would give you our recommendation to buy this at $30 on any other platform. So a pleasant surprise. There's been so many pleasant surprises this year, Matt, and I feel like a lot of it was just that we've been forced to dig because the big releases have been so few and far between that we've had to kind of work for episodes of GameFace this year. And I think it's really, we've been digging for gold, and we've dug up a lot of it this year. Like, there's been so many smaller games that have just been incredible. Indica is another one. I mean, I could go on and on. There's just been so many. And so that's kind of a fringe benefit of it being a slower-ish year of releases, is that you end up giving games like this a chance where maybe you wouldn't have before. And I've been pleasantly surprised by so many games this year. And I think it just shows the strength of the industry. I think it shows the talent in the industry from top to bottom. No matter what corner of the industry you go look in, you're going to find some good stuff. And this is another example of that. So I had a lot of fun with Dungeons of Hinterberg, and I would recommend it to you to buy or get it on Game Pass right now if you can't wait. So, really good stuff, man. Indie games, it's been a great year for indie games already. And we still have, a whole quarter left of the year. So, my indie game of the year this year, one, I've played way more indie games than I usually do. And just two, there's been so many good ones. Like, I know you've kind of already put your flag in the sand on what your kind of indie game of the year is. I'm still just like totally, there's like 5 or 6 games I could just be like, give it to any of them. So it's been a really, really good year for smaller games.
This is a strong contender.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that's Dungeons of Hinterberg. It's available for PC and Xbox, and eventually I think it'll be available for everything else as well. And with that, it's time for... That's right. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before Matt. A couple things before we get going. If you have won this year, do not play. You can only win once every calendar year, and we do give out a free PC game for the winner. And another thing is, because we do give out that free PC game to the winner, if you do not play PC games, please do not play. We want to be able to give the code to somebody who will actually use it. And fair enough, if you want to win the code and give it to somebody else who will play it, we're totally cool with that. We just want to make sure that if we're buying a code for the winner of this game, that it gets played. That's the whole idea behind it. And then one final thing, the chat is on slow mode while we play this game, so you can only put in one chat every 60 seconds. Don't waste your opportunity, because we could switch screenshots and suddenly you know what the game is and you're trying to type it in and it hasn't been 60 seconds and somebody else guesses it and you lose the free game. That would be the worst. So keep that in mind. The chat is on slow mode. You only enter one chat every 60 seconds. My guess today is that you guys will guess it on the third image. We'll see if I'm right. I've been pretty good at this lately, but we'll see if I'm right today. Are you ready, Matt? Mm-hmm. Are you guys ready? Let's play Name That Game. Here is the first image in 3, 2, 1. Just a ground texture there, like our first image always. Sometimes you guys get it from the ground texture. Lesteved, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. Emperor Dread, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Kingdom Hearts, no. Final Fantasy X, no.
Okami.
What's up, JM Rain? Okami, no. Beyond Good and Evil, no. Although I just did start playing the 20th anniversary of that. College Football 25, no. Spore, no. Good guess, Call of Duty. Phantasy Star Online 2, no. From Drifter J. Any more guesses? This is the hardest one. It's just a ground texture, but you guys do get it sometimes from this. Vanquish, no. JM Rain gifting the subs. Look at that, man. Thank you, JM Rain. Wow, he just dropped them. Fable 2, no. That was from Cody S. Carter. Thank you, JM Rain. Hope you're doing good, man. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're ready for the second image. And here it comes in 3, 2, 1, go. That might give it away, but I don't think so. We'll see.
Tales from Arise.
Not Tales from Arise. That's a good guess, though. Chrono Trigger, no. Final Fantasy 15, no. This is a Switch game for sure. He's just like the blurry textures. It has to be a Switch game. Bayonetta 2, no. Drifter J following up on your Switch recommendation, Mellow Pintor.
It does have a kind of a Pokemon Arceus.
A little bit,
to it.
but that's not it. Just Cause 4, no. Tales of Vesperia, no. Ni no Kuni, no.
That's a good guess, though. There was
Those are all good
some
guesses.
cell shading in little bits on the last one.
Uh-huh. Yep. Any more guesses before we go to the third image, which I think will give it away?
Tales of Vesperia is a good guess.
Yep.
I don't think it's that.
Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. No. And actually, by the way, that franchise was just canceled for good, by the way.
Well, this is the first time in 30 years there's been no console Olympics games for the Summer Games.
Yeah. Well, they said that they're going to concentrate on NFTs instead of a video game. The IOC is. Tales of Symphonia, no. No Man's Sky, no. EVU N says Matt should know it.
It looks familiar, but I can't place it.
Okay. Looks like we're going to the third image. And here it is. In 3, 2, 1, go. I think that's going to give it away.
That's Street Fighter 4?
Not Street Fighter 4. Tales of Symphonia, no. No Man's Sky, no. Fire Emblem 3 Houses, no. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, no. Visions of Mana, no. We've never done a game that hasn't come out yet. There's the winner. Cody S. Carter got it. It's Street Fighter 5. You're very close, Matt. Cody S. Carter with the win! Cody, you were very active in this game of Name That Game. And finally, you hit pay dirt.
I knew it was... I mean, I know that's Ryu's stage. But, I don't know. I could have just said Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 6.
You could have,
but
yeah.
That would have been...
You totally can.
I'm also on slow mode.
Yeah. Valkyria Chronicles, no. Obviously, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, no. Congratulations, Cody S. Carter. Here's the rest of them. Here's the fourth image.
Yes, Cammy's stage.
Yep, and here's the 5th image. Ken there in the corner as well. You can see his blonde hair and his gi.
Metro City.
Yep. So there you go. It was Street Fighter V. Good job, Cody S. Carter. As always, you can get at us. You can DM us right here at twitch.tv/SIFTDGames. You can DM me on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire. In fact, let me just roll our lower third so you can see Matt's Twitter handle as well. Or you can DM me on Sifted, where I'm at Shane. You can DM Sifted on Twitter, at SIFTDGames. All that stuff works. Just get at me, and we'll get you your free code. And before we go today, I do want to remind everybody that we are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. You're seeing it below me right now. That's spelled SIFTD. We could really use the help right now. If you've ever thought about pledging to our Patreon, you've been waffling, now would be a great time. Our Patreon is down, as it has been for quite a while. We'd really appreciate it. And again, that money is money that we can count on a little bit more. We can actually make plans and do stuff with that money. Versus another way that you can help us, which is Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, the instructions for that are down below. Basically, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can give us a free $2.50 every month. Literally free. It costs you nothing. Once you've connected your Amazon account with your Twitch account, it literally takes 3 seconds every month to do it. Put a reminder on your phone for every month on like the 30th or whatever, and you can come back and you can re-up it. It literally gives us a free $2. It is the easiest way to support us financially. You're already paying for the subscription with Amazon. You might as well use all the perks on there. In fact, for the first time this week, Matt, I used the perk at Whole Foods, where if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get crazy discounts at Whole Foods. Did you know that? I didn't either until I walked in there and saw it, and I was like, I'm going to try it. I saved like $12 on like a $30 purchase. There's all kinds of perks on Amazon Prime, by the way. You may not realize it. I don't realize most of them, but the best one is being able to help us with Twitch Prime. So do it. And if you can't do that because you don't subscribe to Amazon Prime, I understand. You can totally help us with no money just by liking the show, leave a comment on the show. By the way, I ask you to do that, and we still only get like 5 people on YouTube that does that. Come on, guys. It takes a second. Just type "great show." That's it. And that can make a difference for us. We're really struggling with the YouTube algorithm. Like, our YouTube subscribers have been flat forever. And that's because no one is sharing our show. That's why we're not getting new people, because you guys aren't taking a second just to share it on social media or even just give us a comment so that it bubbles up in the algorithm and more people discover the show. So please, if you can help us financially, please just do that. We would really appreciate it. We really need the help right now. It would mean a lot to me. Like me to you. Help us. We'd really appreciate it. Next week, I have no idea what's going to be in the show next week, Matt. We're probably going to play Visions of Mana, which someone just mentioned a minute ago. So that'll probably be one of the games that we talk about. But otherwise, I don't know, man. The beginning, August doesn't get going until the second week, really. We just put up Dossier for our subscribers and our patrons yesterday, day before, a couple days ago. Actually, on Friday. So you guys have had it for a long time already. So you guys kind of know the lay of the land already. And most of the games don't start coming until like the second week of August. And then from then on, August is pretty awesome. We have Star Wars Outlaws we just talked about. Black Myth Wukong is coming next month. There's a bunch of good stuff. So, Silk Snake reminds me, there is a demo for Azuma 11, which is a soccer RPG.
In Azuma 11?
In Azuma 11, yeah. And that might be something that we talk about next week as well. Cody S. Carter, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. You give me something, I'm about to give you something, give you a free game. I do realize I missed most of the people at the beginning. Mega Drive Guy, thank you for Twitch Prime. I saw a bunch of people subscribe to Twitch Prime when we started, and I never went back and thanked you guys. See if I can scroll up there real fast and get to them. Nope. Sorry. Just lost control. If you did subscribe earlier on in the show, thank you. You guys know that I appreciate it. You know it means a lot to me. So if I missed you, I apologize. Link So Good says World of Goo 2 comes out on Friday. There's a blast from the past.
We've got Star Wars Bounty Hunter.
Oh, that's right. The revival of a game from 2002. We're going back in time on GameFace these last couple episodes. First with EDF and now with that.
I think Arrow the Acrobat as well. I was just going to do...
I hope there's a lot of stories that break over the next 7 days. Like, no matter what, you know that we'll have an entertaining show for you guys. Thanks to everybody who showed up on our live chat. Freedom Rock. What was that old commercial? Freedom Rock.
Turn
it up, man.
Turn it up, man.
That's right. That's a great screen name. Thank you for Twitch Prime, Freedom Rock. We appreciate that. But anyway, we'll be back here at twitch.tv/SIFTDGames next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, like we always are. Have yourselves a great week. filled with great games. GameFace is up and out.